The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy that flows through space and time. But what happens when something from beyond the stars arrives, something that exists outside the Force entirely, something that brings with it the weight of eons and the chaos of infinite possibility? The blue police box fell from the sky like a meteor wrapped in lightning. It tumbled through Dantooin's atmosphere, trailing temporal energy that registered on no known sensor, shrieking through clouds with the grinding, wheezing sound of ancient engines trying desperately to remain coherent across dimensional barriers. The TARDIS, battered, sparking, and very much not where it was supposed to be, carved a burning path across the grasslands before slamming into the ground 3 kilometers from the abandoned rebel base. The impact crater smoked. Chronoton particles danced in the air like fireflies made of broken time. And then the door opened. Well, the doctor said, stumbling out and immediately falling face first into Dantooin grass, that was new. And by new, I mean catastrophically terrible. TARDIS, we've been through a lot together, but crashing into, he paused, looking up at twin suns setting over endless plains. Wherever this is definitely makes the top 10. Possibly top 5. Definitely top 7. He stood, brushing dirt from his tweed jacket and straightening his bow tie. His sonic screwdriver emerged from his pocket, its tip glowing blue as it scanned the environment. The readings made him freeze. No, outside it. No visible weapons. No ship debris. Just, a box. The voice of General Davitz Draven crackled back, explain, just a box, Scout. I mean it's literally just a rectangular blue box, General. With windows. And a sign on it that says. He squinted. Police public call box. Whatever that means. Approach with caution. If this is an Imperial trap. Understood, Command. Delta 3 out. The 3 scouts descended the hill, hands on their blasters, approaching the strange man who was currently waving his glowing stick at their speeder bikes with evident fascination. Brilliant, the doctor exclaimed as they dismounted, weapons drawn. Repulsor lift technology. I've seen variations across a dozen galaxies, but the stabilization field on these models is exquisite. And you've miniaturized it to personal transport scale. Very impressive. Also, hello. I'm the doctor. Who are you? More importantly, where am I? Even more importantly, what year is it? Shriv's blaster didn't waver. Step away from the box. Hands where I can see them. Hands, yes, of course. The doctor raised both hands, sonic screwdriver still clutched in one. But this isn't a weapon. Well, it is, but not the shooty kind. More the opening locks and annoying people kind. See? He aimed it at Shriv's blaster and activated it. The weapon's power cell immediately discharged, rendering it useless. 3 blasters immediately trained on the doctor's chest. Right, the doctor said slowly. In hindsight, that was perhaps not the best way to demonstrate non-hostility. On your knees, the second scout ordered. Now. The doctor complied, still talking. Look, I understand this looks suspicious. Strange man, strange box, appearing out of nowhere. But I promise you, I'm not your enemy. I'm just, lost. Very, very lost. My ship, he gestured at the TARDIS. Had a bit of an accident. Dimensional breach. Temporal shockwave. Long story. Point is, I need help, and judging by your military grade. Leia finished. We need to know what this is and whether it's a threat. The doctor sat in the interrogation room, hands still bound, examining the metal table with professional interest. Durasteel composite. Excellent tensile strength. You've got a proper industrial base supporting your resistance. That's good. Means you're serious. Means you've got a chance. The door hissed open. Mon Mothma entered first, followed by Leia and Draven. The doctor's eyes lit up. "Oh, now this is interesting. You're in charge, aren't you?" He looked at Mon Mothma. "I can tell by the way you carry yourself. Authority without arrogance. And you," his gaze shifted to Leia. "You're royalty. Former, I'd guess, given the military attire. But the bearing never leaves. And the general back there who really doesn't like me. Standard military intelligence officer. Bit paranoid, but in your line of work, paranoia probably keeps you alive." "Who are you?" Mon Mothma asked, taking a seat across from him. "I told your scouts. I'm the doctor." "Doctor what?" "Just the doctor. And before you ask, yes, I know it's confusing. No, I won't explain. Yes, it's pretentious. No, I don't care. Now, can we please skip past the, is he a spy, portion of this conversation? I'm not Imperial. I have no idea what an Imperial even is, though context clues suggest it's bad. I crashed here by accident, my ship is broken, and I need help fixing it so I can leave. Preferably before whoever's in charge of this galaxy notices there's a dimensionally transcendent time machine sitting in your hangar." Leia leaned forward. "You claim to be from another universe." "Not claim. Fact. My TARDIS, that's the blue box, travels through time and space. All of time and space in my reality. But something went wrong. Massive temporal shockwave. Ripped a hole between dimensions. Next thing I know, I'm here, the TARDIS is dying, and I'm surrounded by an energy field that fundamentally shouldn't exist." "What energy field?" "Vortex anymore," he muttered, sonic screwdriver whirring frantically. "I'm not even in my universe. The TARDIS punched through dimensional barriers and, oh, this is bad. This is very, very bad." Behind him, the TARDIS sparked. Smoke poured from the door. The familiar blue glow of its windows flickered weakly. "Don't you dare die on me," the doctor said, rushing back inside. The console room was a disaster. Wires hung from the ceiling. The time rotor groaned with each rotation, grinding against itself like broken gears. Displays showed error messages in circular Gallifreyan script that essentially translated to help everything is wrong help. Okay, calm down." The doctor ran his hands over the console, feeling the TARDIS's distress like a physical ache. "You tried to navigate through a massive temporal shockwave, got caught in dimensional turbulence, and now you're, oh no." His fingers found the dimensional stabilizers. They were completely fried, melted by exposure to an energy signature the TARDIS had no framework to process. The Force, though he didn't yet know to call it that, was anathema to TARDIS systems. Like trying to run a computer designed for electricity on pure psychic energy. The incompatibility was tearing his ship apart from the inside. "I need parts," he said to the empty room. "Specific parts. Which means I need civilization. Which means I need to find out where, and when, I am." He stepped back outside, sonic screwdriver extended, and began scanning the horizon. That's when the speeder bikes appeared. 3 rebel scouts on weathered 74Z speeder bikes crested a hill, their sensors having detected the impact and the subsequent energy readings that made no sense whatsoever. The lead scout, a Duros named Shriv Surgav, raised his electrobinoculars and immediately wished he hadn't. "Command, this is Scout Delta 3, he spoke into his comlink. "We've got visual on the anomaly. It's a blue box. Roughly 2 meters tall. Humanoid." Draven demanded. The doctor's expression turned serious. "I don't know what you call it. But every living thing here is connected to it. It's in your cells. Microscopic organisms that create some kind of universal binding force. It's beautiful and terrifying, and it's completely incompatible with my ship's dimensional stabilizers." Mon Mothma and Leia exchanged glances. He was describing the Force. Accurately. Without training. Without sensitivity. How do you know this? Leia asked carefully. I'm a Time Lord. We see things differently. Time, space, dimensional membranes. It's like asking how you know how to breathe. I just see it. The doctor strained against his bonds. Look, I understand you don't trust me. I wouldn't trust me. But I'm not your enemy. Whatever war you're fighting, whatever tyranny you're resisting, I'm on your side. I'm always on the side of people fighting for freedom. But I need my sonic screwdriver back, I need access to my ship, and I need time to make repairs. In exchange, I can help you. Help us how? Draven asked skeptically. The doctor smiled. I'm 900 years old. I've seen empires rise and fall. I've toppled dictators, stopped wars, and saved civilizations. I've got a brain that can process information faster than your computers and knowledge spanning thousands of worlds. So, help me fix my ship, and in the meantime, I'll help you win your war. Mon Mothma studied him for a long moment. You're either the most valuable asset we've ever encountered or the most dangerous threat. Until we determine which, you'll remain under guard. Fair enough, the doctor said cheerfully. But could someone at least bring me tea? I'm British. Well, not technically, but culturally speaking, I've adopted certain habits, and tea is non-negotiable. As they turned to leave, Leia paused. The temporal shockwave you mentioned. When did it happen? The doctor's face darkened. I don't know your calendar. But recently. Something catastrophically. Equipment and the fact that you're operating in an organized patrol pattern, you're part of some kind of resistance movement. Which means there's something to resist. Which means tyranny. Which means I'm probably going to end up helping you whether I want to or not, because that's just what I do. So, could we skip the part where you shoot me and go straight to the part where I meet your commanding officer? Shriv exchanged glances with his team. The stranger was either completely insane or telling the truth. Possibly both. Bind his hands, Shriv ordered. And get a hover sled for that box. Command is going to want to see this. The rebel base on Dantooine had been abandoned after the Empire's attack months ago, but a small garrison remained to monitor Imperial activity and maintain the facility as a potential fallback position. General Draven stood in the command center, watching as the hover sled carried the blue box into the hangar bay. Behind him, Princess Leia Organa and Mon Mothma observed with intense interest. Sensors still can't identify its composition, Draven reported. It's reading as wood, but our scans suggest it's dimensionally unstable. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our databases. And the prisoner? Mon Mothma asked, her voice calm but concerned. Compliant. Talkative. Possibly delusional. He claims to be a time traveler from another universe. Leia's eyebrows rose. Another universe? His words, Your Highness. He also claims his ship, Draven gestured at the TARDIS on the monitors, is damaged and needs repairs. He's been scanning everything with that device he carries. We confiscated it, but he says without it, we won't understand what we're dealing with. Mon Mothma studied the blue box. Something about it unsettled her on a level she couldn't articulate. Bring him to interrogation room 3. And keep the box under heavy guard. If the Empire learns we have technology they can't identify, they'll come in force. Powerful was destroyed. Something with enough energy to create dimensional ripples. What happened? Leia's voice was quiet. The Death Star. A battle station capable of destroying entire planets. We destroyed it days ago. The doctor's eyes widened. You destroyed a weapon that could obliterate planets. The energy release would have been, oh. Oh no. That's what pulled me here. Your victory created a dimensional wound. He looked up at her. You saved your worlds. But the shockwave trapped me in your galaxy. Then helping us win this war, Mon Mothma said, may be the only way you ever get home. The door closed, leaving the doctor alone with that terrible truth. Outside, in the command center, Leia turned to Mon Mothma. Do we believe him? I don't know, Mon Mothma admitted. But if even half of what he says is true, we can't afford to let the Empire capture him. Neither of them noticed the Imperial probe droid hovering in Dantooin's upper atmosphere, its sensors recording everything, transmitting data across the galaxy to a star destroyer where Darth Vader stood in meditation, sensing a disturbance in the Force unlike anything he'd felt before. Something ancient. Something powerful. Something that didn't belong. The interrogation lasted 3 hours. Mon Mothma, Leia, and General Draven took turns questioning the doctor, circling around his story from every angle, searching for inconsistencies or deception. They found neither. What they found instead was a man who spoke about temporal mechanics the way their best engineers discussed hyperspace theory, with casual mastery that bordered on the absurd. He described technologies that shouldn't exist, referenced historical events from worlds he'd never visited, and demonstrated a working knowledge of physics that made their scientists look like children playing with blocks. And he did it all with his hands still bound, a crooked smile on his face, and an infuriating certainty that he was the smartest person in the room. You're telling us, Draven said for the 3rd time, that you've traveled through time. Visited Earth's past and future. Witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations across multiple galaxies in your reality. Yes, the doctor said patiently. Though technically, I'm from Gallifrey, not Earth. But I've spent considerable time there. Lovely planet. Bit primitive technologically, but the people have potential. Assuming they don't blow themselves up before achieving interstellar flight. Which they will. Eventually. The achieving part, not the blowing up part. Probably. Leia leaned against the wall, arms crossed. And this TARDIS of yours? It's alive. Semi-sentient. Grown, not built. It exists in a state of dimensional transcendence, bigger on the inside than the outside because it occupies multiple spatial dimensions simultaneously. Think of it like. He paused, searching for the right metaphor. Imagine a box that contains an entire universe, but the universe and the box are the same thing, just observed from different dimensional perspectives. That's impossible, Draven stated flatly. So are lightsabers, hyperspace travel, and whatever mystical energy field permeates this galaxy, yet here we are. Ground assault. The doctor, however, stood alone, sonic screwdriver pointed skyward. Come on, he muttered, adjusting the device's settings. Just a little bit of electromagnetic interference. Nothing fancy. Just enough to make you think twice. The sonic screwdriver emitted a high-frequency pulse. Above him, the lead TIE fighter's instruments went haywire. The pilot's targeting computer flickered, his communications array squealed with feedback, and his navigational sensors reported he was simultaneously in 3 different locations. The TIE fighter veered off course, nearly colliding with his wingman. Beautiful, the doctor exclaimed. Absolutely beautiful. Your systems are sophisticated, but they're still vulnerable to localized EM disruption. Let's see how you handle this. He amplified the signal. 6 more TIE fighters suddenly found their instruments unreliable, their formations breaking apart as pilots struggled to compensate for sensors that couldn't decide what was real. On the Star Destroyer's bridge, Captain Gage stared at his tactical display in disbelief. What's happening to our fighters? Unknown, sir, the sensor officer reported. They're experiencing system-wide malfunctions. Source appears to be ground-based, but we can't pinpoint the exact location. Then target the entire base. Orbital bombardment. Wipe it out. Belay that order. Every officer on the bridge turned as Darth Vader strode onto the command deck, his cape billowing behind him, his breathing a mechanical rhythm that dominated the sudden silence. "Lord Vader," Captain Gage said, bowing slightly. "We were preparing to destroy the rebel base as ordered." "The base is secondary," Vader said, his voice resonating through his mask. "There is something else here. Something unusual. I will lead the ground forces personally. Continue jamming their communications. Prevent their escape. But do not destroy the base. Not yet." Sonic screwdriver. Multi-purpose tool. Scans biological systems, among other things. The midichlorian count in your cells is significantly elevated compared to baseline human. Wait, you are human, right? Parallel evolution is fascinating, but the genetic similarities are remarkable. He paused, noticing their expressions. "I'm rambling. Sorry. Happens when I'm nervous." "What do you have to be nervous about?" Draven asked. The doctor's smile faded. "Because I just told you I can detect force sensitivity with a handheld device. Which means if your empire has anyone with similar technology, or worse, force users who can sense dimensional anomalies, they already know something's wrong. They might not know what I am, but they know I'm here. And tyrannical governments don't react well to unknown variables." As if summoned by his words, an alarm blared through the base. A rebel technician's voice crackled over the intercom. "Command, we've got incoming. Imperial Star Destroyer just dropped out of hyperspace. They're launching TIE fighters and deploying ground forces. ETA to base perimeter, 15 minutes. The room erupted into controlled chaos. Draven immediately headed for the door, barking orders into his comlink. Mon Mothma's expression remained calm, but her jaw tightened with grim determination. Leia grabbed the doctor's arm. "Did you lead them here?" "No. I told you, my TARDIS crashed. I didn't transmit anything, didn't communicate with anyone. But..." He ran a hand through his hair, thinking frantically. "The energy signature from the dimensional breach. If they were monitoring this sector, they would have detected it. They're not here for you. They're here for me." "Then you've doomed us all," Draven snarled from the doorway. "Not yet, I haven't." The doctor pushed past him, running toward the hangar bay. "Where's my TARDIS?" The hangar bay was controlled chaos. Rebel soldiers scrambled to defensive positions while technicians worked frantically to evacuate. Bridge, a sensor officer reported, "Sir, we're detecting a single humanoid approaching Lord Vader's position. Unarmed. No visible weapons." Captain Gage frowned. "A suicide run?" "Unknown, sir." Below, Vader stopped. His hand raised, halting the Imperial advance. Through the Force, he reached out toward this approaching figure, trying to read intentions, thoughts, anything. He found nothing. An emptiness that shouldn't exist. A blind spot in the Force itself. "Fascinating," Vader said quietly. The doctor stopped 50 meters away, close enough to speak, far enough to run if necessary. "Hello," he called out cheerfully. "I'm the doctor. And I believe we need to talk. Specifically, about why invading a rebel base to capture a crashed time traveler is a spectacularly bad idea that's going to end poorly for everyone involved. Mostly you. But also possibly me. And definitely your Emperor, because if he thinks he can control technology from outside this universe, he's about to learn a very painful lesson about dimensional incompatibility." Vader's hand moved toward his lightsaber. The doctor kept talking. "See, the problem is, your Force, brilliant concept, by the way, very mystical, very binding the universe together, doesn't work on me. Or my ship. We're from outside. We don't fit your cosmic framework. Which means anything you try to do to me through the Force is going to fail spectacularly, and probably cause a feedback loop that'll give you the worst psychic migraine you've ever experienced. The lightsaber ignited with a snap hiss, its red blade humming with deadly promise. "Right," the doctor said, smile fading. "The talking portion of today's program has concluded. Running now." He turned and sprinted back toward the base as Vader's arm extended, attempting to pull him back through the Force. Essential equipment. The TARDIS sat in the center of the bay, still smoking slightly, surrounded by sensor equipment and nervous guards. The doctor sprinted to it, sonic screwdriver already extended, scanning the damage. "Oh, you poor thing. They've been poking at you, haven't they? Running scans, trying to figure out what you are." He placed a hand on the wooden exterior, and for a moment, a faint hum resonated through the ship. "I know it hurts. I know this place is wrong for you. But I need you to hold on just a bit longer." Leia had followed him. "Can you fly it? Escape before the Empire arrives?" "No. The dimensional stabilizers are completely fried. If I tried to dematerialize now, the TARDIS would tear itself apart across 17 different timelines, and I'd cease to exist in a very permanent, very messy way." He turned to face her. "But I can use the TARDIS's systems to mask your energy signatures. Buy you time to evacuate." "At what cost?" "The TARDIS becomes a beacon. They'll know exactly where it is, which means they'll know exactly where I am. But it'll hide your people long enough for them to escape." Mon Mothma arrived, flanked by rebel soldiers. "Doctor, we're evacuating to our secondary base on Yavin 4. You have two choices, come with us, or face the Empire alone." The doctor looked at the TARDIS, then at the rebels preparing to defend their base against overwhelming odds. He thought about Alderaan. About billions of lives snuffed out. About an empire that ruled through fear and genocide. "I'll come with you," he said quietly. "But first, I need to slow them down." "How?" Draven demanded. The doctor's grin returned, sharp and dangerous. "I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to be very, very annoying." 10 minutes later, the doctor stood on the exterior landing platform as TIE fighters screamed overhead, their distinctive howl cutting through Dantooin's atmosphere. Rebel forces had fallen back to defensive positions, preparing for the Imperial. He could feel it now, the disturbance in the Force. Not a presence, exactly. More like an absence. A void where something should exist but didn't. It was ancient, powerful, and utterly alien to everything he'd encountered. And it terrified him in a way he hadn't felt since Mustafar. The doctor watched through electrobinoculars as Imperial landing craft descended toward the plains below the base. Stormtroopers poured out in precise formations, advancing with military efficiency. AT-STS stalked forward on mechanical legs, their heavy weapons trained on the rebel positions. And leading them, a figure in black armor whose very presence seemed to make the air heavier. "Oh no," the doctor whispered. "Oh, that's not good." He could feel it even from this distance, the weight of darkness, of suffering and rage contained within a single being. This wasn't just a soldier. This was something else. Something twisted by the very force energy that saturated this galaxy. Leia appeared beside him. "That's Darth Vader. The Emperor's enforcer. If he's here personally." Then this just became significantly more complicated. The doctor lowered the electrobinoculars. "We need to go. Now. Get your people to the transports." "What about you?" "I'll buy you time. Create a distraction. Then meet you at your ship. You do have a ship, right? The Millennium Falcon is docked in Bay 7. Han Solo's ship. He'll get you out." Han Solo. Right. Great name. Very heroic. "I'll find him." The doctor handed her the electrobinoculars. "Go. And Leia? Thank you for trusting me. Even a little bit. It matters more than you know." She hesitated, then ran toward the evacuation transports. The doctor turned back toward the advancing Imperial forces, sonic screwdriver in hand. Right then. Time to meet the locals. This should be absolutely terrifying. He stepped off the platform and walked directly toward Darth Vader's position, hands raised, that infuriating smile back on his face. On the Star Destroyer. Destroyed it at terrible cost. Many died to give us that victory. But it was necessary. The doctor stood abruptly, his bound hands clenched into fists. Unbind me. Doctor, Draven started. Unbind me, he repeated, his voice carrying an authority that made even the general hesitate. Right now. Because if what you're telling me is true, if there's a government out there that destroys entire planets as policy, then we don't have time for this dance of suspicion. You need help. I need repairs. And somewhere out there, your empire just became aware of my presence, which means they're coming. So, unbind me, give me my sonic screwdriver, and let me help you before this situation gets exponentially worse. Mon Mothma studied him for a long moment, then nodded to Draven. Release him. Ma'am, I strongly advise. He's right, General. If the Empire detects the energy signature from his ship, we're already compromised. We need to know what we're dealing with. She looked directly at the doctor. But understand this, my people have sacrificed everything for this rebellion. If you betray us, if you're working with the Empire, there will be nowhere in this galaxy you can hide. The doctor rubbed his wrists as the binders came off. I've been threatened by Daleks, Cybermen, and the Master. Your warning is noted and appreciated, but unnecessary. I don't work with fascists. Ever. Draven handed him the sonic screwdriver with obvious reluctance. The doctor immediately activated it, scanning the room, the walls, and finally the three Alliance leaders themselves. Fascinating, he murmured, studying Leia. You're strong in the Force. Not trained, but the potential is there. And you, he turned to Mon Mothma. You've got traces of Force sensitivity too, though much weaker. It's not uncommon in your species, is it? Some genetic predisposition toward connecting with this universal energy field. Leia's hand instinctively moved toward her blaster. How can you possibly know that? The doctor's tone remained cheerful, but his eyes were sharp. You've built a civilization around impossible things. Don't lecture me about what can't exist. Mon Mothma raised a hand, silencing Draven before he could respond. Let's assume, for the moment, that we believe you. You need repairs. Specifically, you mentioned dimensional stabilizers. What components would you require? The doctor brightened. Ah, finally, practical questions. I need crystalline matrices capable of handling multidimensional energy frequencies, temporal buffers to prevent chronon particle decay, and a power source stable enough to restart the TARDIS's primary systems without triggering a dimensional cascade that would turn this entire moon into a black hole. Well, a small black hole. Probably temporary. The point is, I need sophisticated technology, and based on what I've seen of your equipment, you might actually have access to some of it. Our resources are limited, Mon Mothma said carefully. We're fighting a war against an empire that controls most of the known galaxy. Every component, every credit, is allocated to the rebellion's survival. Right. The Empire. The doctor's expression sobered. Tell me about them. And don't give me propaganda. Give me truth. Who are they, why are you fighting them, and what makes them worth resisting? It was Leia who answered, her voice carrying the weight of personal loss. The Empire rose from the ashes of the old Republic 20 years ago. They promised security, order, and peace after years of war. Instead, they brought tyranny. They dissolved the Senate, eliminated personal freedoms, and ruled through fear. They destroyed my home planet of Alderaan, billions of lives extinguished in seconds, to demonstrate their power. The doctor's face went very still. They committed genocide. As a demonstration. Yes. And this Death Star you destroyed was capable of repeating that atrocity on any world that defied them, Mon Mothma said. The attempt failed. The force slid off the doctor like water off glass. And the feedback, the psychic recoil from touching something that shouldn't exist, sent a lance of pain through Vader's consciousness. For the first time in years, Darth Vader felt something that resembled fear. After him, he commanded. I want him alive. Behind him, stormtroopers rushed forward as the doctor disappeared into the rebel base, laughing like a madman. The doctor sprinted through the rebel base corridors, stormtrooper blaster fire scorching the walls behind him. His sonic screwdriver whirred continuously, sealing blast doors behind him, overloading security panels, and generally causing as much chaos as possible. Emergency lights flashed red. Alarms shrieked. And somewhere behind him, he could hear the mechanical breathing of Darth Vader growing closer. Bay 7, he muttered, skidding around a corner. Why is it always the bay on the opposite side of the facility? Why can't the escape ship ever be conveniently located next to the interrogation room? He burst into a side corridor and nearly collided with a Wookiee. Chewbacca roared in surprise, his bowcaster swinging toward the strange human in the bow tie. Whoa, whoa. The doctor raised his hands. Friend. Rebel. Running from Imperials. You must be Chewbacca, Leia mentioned you. Is your ship ready? A human voice called from further down the corridor, Chewie, what's the holdup? We're on a schedule. Han Solo appeared, blaster drawn, assessing the doctor with the practiced eye of a smuggler who'd seen every con artist in the galaxy. Who the hell are you? The doctor. Leia sent me. Your ship, the Millennium Falcon, I need passage to Yavin 4 immediately. Blaster fire erupted from the corridor behind him. Preferably before Darth Vader catches up. Han's eyes widened. Vader's here. Yes. Big, black armor, red lightsaber, breathing problem, absolutely terrifying, and personally interested in capturing me for reasons I'll explain later if we survive the next 10 minutes. Chewbacca roared something that needed no translation. Yeah, I agree, Han said. Run now, questions later. Come on. They sprinted toward Bay 7, the doctor keeping pace surprisingly well for someone who looked like a university professor who'd gotten lost on the way to a bow tie convention. Behind them, blast doors exploded inward as Vader tore through them with the Force. Quad laser turret. The seat was still warm from the last occupant, probably a rebel gunner who'd evacuated earlier. He stared at the controls with a mix of technical interest and moral discomfort. It's just a targeting computer and a trigger, he muttered. Point, shoot, don't think about the fact that there are living beings in those TIE fighters who are following orders from a fascist regime and probably don't deserve to die but are actively trying to kill me, which creates a moral complexity that I really don't have time to process right now. A TIE fighter filled his viewport, laser cannons charging. The doctor squeezed the trigger. The quad lasers roared. The TIE fighter exploded in a ball of expanding gas and debris. I'm sorry, the doctor whispered. I'm so sorry. But he kept firing. On the Star Destroyer's bridge, Captain Gage watched the Millennium Falcon escape atmosphere, frustration evident in his clenched jaw. Sir, the rebel transport is getting away. Should we pursue? Vader stood at the viewport, his attention focused not on the escaping ship but on something else entirely. In the hangar bay below, the blue police box sat undisturbed, radiating an energy signature that made the Force itself recoil. Let them go, Vader said quietly. My lord. The rebels are secondary. That ship, he pointed at the TARDIS, that is what the Emperor seeks. Prepare a specialized containment field. Use the technology from the Inquisitorius archives. Whatever that vessel is, it does not leave this Star Destroyer. At once, Lord Vader. But as Vader watched the TARDIS being carefully loaded onto a transport shuttle, surrounded by nervous technicians and Force-sensitive Inquisitors, he felt something he hadn't experienced since his transformation: genuine uncertainty. The Doctor had been right. Attempting to touch him with the Force had been like grasping at smoke. No, worse than smoke, like touching the edge of a void, a space where the Force simply ceased to exist. Destabilize its dimensional anchors. He sat heavily. Yes. It can be destroyed. And if that happens, I'm trapped here. Forever. Silence filled the lounge. Then we need to get it back, Leia said firmly. We can't mount a rescue operation for a single ship, Draven protested. We barely have the resources to sustain our own forces. Assaulting a star destroyer to recover alien technology is exactly what we should do, Mon Mothma interrupted, if that technology could help us win this war. All eyes turned to the Doctor. He met their gazes, understanding the question they were asking without words. You want to know if the TARDIS can be weaponized? If I can use it to fight the Empire? Can you? Draven asked bluntly. The Doctor stood, pacing the small lounge. The TARDIS is the most powerful ship ever created by the Time Lords. It can travel anywhere in space and time, exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and manipulate the fabric of reality itself. In theory, I could use it to erase the Empire from history. Go back to before Palpatine's rise, prevent the whole thing from happening. Hope flickered in their eyes. But I won't, he continued firmly. Because that's not how time works. Not anymore. The Time War destroyed the old rules. The Time Lords tried to rewrite history to win, and it nearly destroyed all of reality. I'm the last because I ended the war. I stopped my people from becoming the very monsters we fought. And I swore, that I would never use time as a weapon again. Then what good are you? Draven demanded. Davits, Mon Mothma said warningly. But the Doctor smiled. I'm good for exactly what I told you before. Strategy. Knowledge. Experience. I can't give you a time machine to change the past. But I can help you win the future. If you'll trust me. Leia stepped forward. The Alliance doesn't have much to offer. We're scattered, under-equipped, and fighting an empire that outguns us 1,000 to 1. But we're fighting because it's right. Because freedom matters. Because tyranny must be opposed, even when the odds are impossible. She extended her hand. If you help us, we'll help you recover your ship. You have my word. The Doctor looked at her outstretched hand, then at Mon Mothma and Draven. He thought about the TARDIS in Imperial hands. About Alderaan, destroyed. About the TIE fighter pilots he'd killed. About cycles of violence and the choice to break them. He took Leia's hand. Then I'm with you. For however long it takes. But I have one condition. Name it, Mon Mothma said. When this is over, when the Empire falls or when I get my TARDIS back, whichever comes first, I need you to remember something. The Force, your Jedi, your Sith, all of it. It's powerful, yes. But it's not the only power in the universe. There are beings, civilizations, and forces out there that exist beyond the Force's reach. And someday, this galaxy is going to encounter them. When that happens, you'll need people who can think beyond the binary of light and dark. You'll need to be ready. We'll remember, Mon Mothma promised. The Falcon shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the viewports, the jungle moon of Yavin 4 appeared, with the massive orange gas giant Yavin looming beyond. And on the moon's surface, barely visible through the canopy, the ancient temples that housed the Rebel Alliance's primary base. Welcome to Yavin 4, Leia said. Your new home until we figure out how to take on a star destroyer. The Doctor pressed his face against the viewport, staring at the jungle moon with wide eyes. Oh, this is brilliant. Ancient temples, hidden bases, rebels fighting against impossible odds. This is exactly the sort of thing I get involved in. This is going to be fantastic or fatal, and honestly, at this point, I'm not sure which I prefer. Solo. Your ship is remarkable, and your piloting is exceptional, even if your cynicism is a bit thick. Han grinned despite himself. You're weird, document. I like you. But if you try to redeem Vader, I'm not coming to your funeral. I wouldn't expect you to. Funerals are boring. I prefer celebrations of life. The doctor headed toward the lounge, pausing at the doorway. Although technically, Time Lords don't have funerals. We regenerate. Whole new body, whole new personality. It's very confusing for everyone involved. He left Han staring after him in bewilderment. In the passenger lounge, Leia stood with Mon Mothma and General Draven, their faces grim. A holographic display showed tactical data from Dantooine, Imperial forces securing the base, and in the center of the hangar, the TARDIS being loaded onto a transport. They have your ship, Mon Mothma said as the doctor entered. The doctor's face went very still. I know. I felt it. The TARDIS is. She's terrified. Being surrounded by all that force energy, by beings who don't understand what she is. It's like being trapped in a room filled with psychic static. Can they access it? Draven asked. Use its technology? No. The TARDIS won't open for them. She's keyed to Time Lord biology, and even if they somehow forced the doors, the interior dimensions would collapse without a Time Lord to stabilize them. They'd step into a paradox and cease to exist. He paused. But the Emperor. He's powerful in the Force, isn't he? The most powerful, Leia confirmed. More than even Vader. Then he might sense what the TARDIS is. And if he's as intelligent as he is powerful, he'll realize it represents a threat to his control. He'll try to destroy it. Can it be destroyed? Mon Mothma asked. The doctor's expression was bleak. With enough force, anything can be destroyed. And the TARDIS is vulnerable right now, damaged and cut off from the time vortex. If they focus enough firepower on it, if they use the Force to. And it never gets easier. It shouldn't get easier. The doctor sat in the navigator's seat, staring at the hyperspace tunnel flowing past. Tell me about Vader. Who is he? Han's jaw tightened. Darth Vader. The Emperor's right hand. A Dark Lord of the Sith, that's what they call Force users who've turned to the dark side. He hunts down the last of the Jedi, enforces the Emperor's will, and generally makes everyone's life miserable. They say he used to be a Jedi himself, before the Empire. But that's just rumors. A fallen hero, the doctor murmured. Corrupted by power and darkness. There's a tragedy there. Tragedy. He's a monster. He destroyed entire worlds, killed billions. Don't romanticize him. I'm not romanticizing anything. I'm recognizing a pattern I've seen across 1,000 worlds. The good man who falls. The hero who becomes the villain. It's one of the universe's oldest stories, and it's almost always preventable if someone just. He trailed off, something dangerous flickering in his eyes. If someone just shows them there's another way. Han stared at him. You're not seriously thinking about trying to redeem Darth Vader. I'm thinking that this galaxy is locked in a cycle of violence. Empire versus rebellion. Sith versus Jedi. Dark versus light. And cycles can be broken, but only if someone's willing to step outside the pattern and do something unexpected. That's the kind of thinking that gets people killed. Yes, the doctor agreed. It usually is. But it's also the kind of thinking that saves civilizations. Before Han could respond, the intercom crackled. Leia's voice came through from the passenger lounge. Han, we're approaching Yavin 4. ETA 10 minutes. Is the doctor with you? Yeah, he's here, Han called back. Alive, mostly sane, and talking about redeeming Sith Lords. So, completely normal. Have him meet me in the lounge. We need to talk about what happens next. The doctor stood. Thank you for the rescue, Captain. And the psychic recoil had been agonizing. If the Emperor believed he could simply claim this technology, he was mistaken. This doctor, this TARDIS, represented something beyond even Sith understanding. And that made them either the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat the Empire had ever encountered. Vader turned to the communications officer. Send a priority transmission to Imperial Center. Inform the Emperor that we have recovered an extra-dimensional artifact of unknown origin. Request his presence. He paused, considering his next words carefully. And inform him that we have encountered a being who exists outside the Force. One who may pose a threat to the Sith themselves. The Millennium Falcon jumped to hyperspace, the stars stretching into lines of light as the ship escaped Dantuan's system. In the cockpit, Han pulled back on the throttle, letting out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. That was too close, he said. Way too close. Chewie, check the damage reports. I think we took hits on the starboard deflector. Chewbacca roared an affirmative and headed toward the engineering bay. The doctor climbed down from the gun turret, looking shaken. I killed people. 3 TIE fighter pilots. I saw their ships explode, and I killed them. Han turned in his seat, his expression hardening. Yeah, you did. Welcome to war, document. It's not pretty, and it doesn't care about your feelings. Those pilots. They would have killed you without a second thought. They would have killed me, Chewie, Leia, and everyone on that base if we'd given them the chance. So you can feel bad about it if you want, but don't expect me to feel sorry for you. I don't expect sympathy, the doctor said quietly. I expect to remember. Every life I take stays with me. Forever. That's the price of being the person who survives. Something in his tone made Han's expression soften slightly. You've done this before. The war thing. More times than I can count. And it never gets. Han's voice crackled over the intercom. Hang on, we're going in for landing. And Doc. Welcome to the rebellion. Try not to get us all killed. The doctor grinned. No promises. As the Falcon descended toward the jungle, the doctor made a silent promise to the TARDIS, wherever she was, I'm coming for you. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I promise, I will get you back. The rebel base on Yavin 4 was a study in controlled chaos. Ancient Massassi temples, thousands of years old, had been converted into hangars, command centers, and living quarters. Technicians worked on battered X-wings and Y-wings, their tools echoing off stone walls carved by a long-dead civilization. Pilots ran drills. Intelligence officers pored over tactical displays. And everywhere, the sense of desperate hope. The belief that a ragtag group of freedom fighters could somehow defeat the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. The doctor walked through it all with wide-eyed fascination, his sonic screwdriver occasionally whirring as he scanned structural supports, ancient carvings, and the occasional piece of rebel technology. Leia walked beside him, serving as both guide and guard. These temples are incredible, the doctor said, running his hand along a wall covered in Massassi hieroglyphs. Pre-Republic era. Built by a warrior species that was strong in the Force. They're gone now, aren't they? Extinct, Leia confirmed. Or scattered. No one knows for certain. There's a pattern there. Powerful Force-using civilizations that rise and fall. The Sith, the Jedi, these Massassi. It's like the Force itself creates cycles of conflict. He paused at a carving that depicted a massive battle. Does no one in this galaxy ever break the cycle? Just, choose peace. The Jedi tried, Leia said quietly. For 1,000 years, they kept the peace. Then the Clone Wars came, and the Republic fell, and the Jedi were hunted to extinction. Now there's just us. And the Force sensitives the Empire hasn't found yet. You're one of them, the doctor said, not making it a question. Leia stiffened. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I scanned you, remember? Strong Force potential. Untrained, but it's there. You probably get feelings sometimes. Hunches that turn out right. Moments where you know things you shouldn't. He turned to face her. The firepower, and even if we did, it would expose our entire fleet to Imperial retaliation. Then we don't assault it, the doctor said, his mind already racing through possibilities. We infiltrate it. The room fell silent. That's suicide, a rebel officer protested. No, it's highly dangerous with a significant probability of death, but suicide implies certainty, and there's always a chance if you're clever enough. The doctor began pacing, hands gesturing as he thought aloud. Star destroyers are massive, heavily crewed, with thousands of personnel. Security is tight, but no system is perfect. There are always gaps, always weaknesses. You just need to know where to look. And you know where to look? Mon Mothma asked. Not yet. But I will. Give me access to your intelligence files on Imperial ship operations, your stolen technical readouts, anything you have on Star Destroyer internal systems. And I need someone who knows the Empire from the inside. A defector, a former Imperial officer, anyone with first-hand experience. Leia exchanged glances with Mon Mothma. We have someone. Lieutenant Commander Orson Krennic Jr., son of the man who designed the Death Star. He defected after his father died in the Death Star's destruction. He knows Imperial protocols better than anyone. Perfect. Bring him here. And I need tools. Lots of tools. Your finest engineers, mechanics, anyone who can help me build what I need. What exactly are you planning to build? Draven asked suspiciously. The doctor grinned. A Trojan horse. Well, technically a Trojan infiltration device, but that's less catchy. We're going to make the Empire bring us directly to my TARDIS. 3 hours later, the doctor stood in a converted temple chamber that had been turned into a makeshift workshop. Rebel technicians surrounded him, along with Lieutenant Commander Krennic. A thin man in his 30s with his father's intense eyes but none of his ambition. Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine are terrifying, but they're not invincible. They bleed. They make mistakes. And most importantly, they underestimate people. That's their weakness. And what's your weakness? Leia asked quietly. The doctor's smile faded. I care too much. I see suffering, and I have to stop it. I see tyranny, and I have to fight it. Even when it's not my war. Even when it's not my galaxy. Even when the smart thing would be to run. He met her eyes. So yes, this is dangerous. Yes, I might die. But your people are fighting impossible odds every day, and they keep fighting because it's right. How can I do less? Silence filled the workshop, broken only by the distant sounds of the rebel base. Finally, Mon Mothma nodded. Begin construction. You have 48 hours before the Devastator reaches the Ringali shell. Use them well. The next 2 days were a blur of activity. The doctor worked alongside rebel engineers, welding components, programming systems, and occasionally stopping to explain some aspect of dimensional engineering that left his assistants both fascinated and confused. Han Solo appeared midway through the first day, leaning against a workbench. So you're really doing this? Sneaking onto Vader's ship in a metal ball. Viper probe droid, technically, the doctor corrected, not looking up from the circuit board he was modifying. And yes. I am. Why, are you volunteering to help? Hell no. I'm just here to tell you you're crazy. Noted. Was there anything else? Han hesitated. Leia thinks you can actually pull this off. Mon Mothma too. They believe in you. And you don't. I believe you're either the bravest person I've ever met or the dumbest. Jury's still out. Han pushed off the workbench. But for what it's worth, good luck. The rebellion needs people who are willing to take crazy risks. Just, try to survive, yeah. I'm getting used to having you around. The doctor looked up, surprised. Thank you, Han. That actually means. Explain this to me again, Krennic said, studying the schematic the doctor had hastily sketched on a datapad. You want to build a fake probe droid that transmits false sensor data while concealing a human-sized passenger compartment? Exactly. Imperial probe droids are everywhere, constantly scanning systems, reporting back. They're so common that Star Destroyer security barely gives them a second glance when they return for data upload. The doctor's hands flew across the datapad, adding details. We build one that's 95% authentic. It passes all external scans, transmits proper Imperial codes, but inside, he tapped the passenger section, it carries a very clever Time Lord who can then access the ship's internal systems, locate his TARDIS, and cause enough chaos to cover an extraction. The problem, Krennic said, is Imperial probe droids have authentication protocols. Biometric scans of returning droids to verify they haven't been tampered with. Your fake droid would be detected immediately. Unless we had real Imperial authentication codes, the doctor countered. Which you can provide, can't you? Your father had high-level clearance. You inherited some of that knowledge. Krennic's expression darkened. My father built a weapon that destroyed planets. I defected specifically to avoid following his path. And now you have a chance to use his legacy for something good. Help me infiltrate Vader's ship, recover technology that could help the rebellion, and maybe, just maybe, prevent more planets from being destroyed. The doctor's voice softened. I understand guilt, Krennic. I understand the weight of your father's choices. But you're not him. You get to choose differently. So, choose. Krennic stared at the schematic for a long moment, then nodded. I can get you the codes. But you'll need more than just authentication. You'll need a cover story. A reason for a probe droid to be in the specific sector where the Devastator is operating. Why haven't you trained? Because the Jedi are gone. Because admitting I have Force sensitivity makes me a target for the Inquisitors. Because I'm more useful to the rebellion as a leader than as another Force user who gets hunted down and killed. Her voice was sharp, defensive. And because I don't believe in destinies or mystical energy fields choosing people for greatness. I believe in choice. In action. In fighting for what's right because it's right, not because some cosmic force says I should. The doctor smiled. I like you more and more, Princess. They entered the command center, a vast circular chamber filled with holographic displays and tactical stations. Mon Mothma stood at the center, surrounded by Alliance command staff. She looked up as they entered. Doctor, thank you for joining us. We've been analyzing the Imperial response to Dantooine. She gestured, and a holographic Star Destroyer appeared above the central projector. This is the Devastator, Vader's personal flagship. Our intelligence confirms your TARDIS is aboard. But there's something else. The hologram shifted, showing a transmission intercept, partial, heavily encrypted, but with a few decoded fragments. We managed to crack part of their communication, General Draven said. The Emperor himself is en route to rendezvous with the Devastator. He wants to examine your ship personally. The doctor's face went pale. Palpatine. The Emperor. He's coming for the TARDIS. You know of him? Mon Mothma asked. I know the type. Powerful force user, master manipulator, built an empire on lies and fear. I've encountered beings like him across a dozen galaxies. They're all the same, convinced they're saving civilization by controlling it, willing to sacrifice billions for their vision of order. The doctor's voice hardened. And they're always wrong. The question, Draven said, is what do we do about it? We can't assault a star destroyer, especially not Vader's flagship. We don't have something. Don't let it go to your head. Han left, but not before the doctor caught the hint of a smile. By the end of the second day, the probe droid was complete. It looked identical to an Imperial Viper probe droid, black spherical body, multiple sensor arms, repulsor lift generators, and concealed blaster weapons. But hidden within the chassis, a pressurized compartment barely large enough for a human, filled with a portable oxygen supply and the doctor's sonic screwdriver. It's claustrophobic, Krennic observed, uncomfortable, and potentially lethal if the seal fails. Perfect, the doctor said cheerfully. Exactly my kind of plan. That evening, in the command center, Mon Mothma gathered the senior staff for final briefing. Our leaked intelligence has worked, she reported. Imperial forces are deploying probe droids to the Ring-Ali shell to investigate reported rebel activity. The Devastator will be in position within 18 hours. This is our window. She turned to the doctor, who stood in his usual tweed jacket and bow tie, looking completely out of place among military officers in combat fatigues. Doctor, once you're aboard the Devastator, you'll be on your own. We can't provide support. We can't extract you if things go wrong. Are you certain about this? The doctor's expression was unusually serious. No. I'm not certain. I'm terrified. But the TARDIS is my ship, my home, my oldest friend. And she's trapped, surrounded by people who want to use her as a weapon or destroy her. I've left people behind before. Companions I couldn't save. Friends I failed. I won't abandon her too. Leia stepped forward, pressing something into his hand. A comm link. If you need us, call. We'll find a way to help. Thank you, Princess. For everything. For trusting someone who literally fell out of the sky. For giving me a chance to prove I'm on your side. He pocketed the comm link. And when I get back, when, not if, I'm going to help you win this war. Not with time. Leave that to me, Leia said from the doorway. She entered with several data pads. I've been coordinating with intelligence. We have reports of an Imperial supply convoy moving through the Ring-Ali shell. If we leak information suggesting rebel activity in that sector, the Empire will deploy probe droids to investigate. Your fake droid could be reporting back from that area. Brilliant, the doctor exclaimed. See, this is why I love working with competent people. You think 3 steps ahead. A rebel technician raised her hand hesitantly. Doctor, even if we build this droid and get you onto the Devastator, how do you plan to find your TARDIS? Star destroyers are over 1,600 meters long with multiple decks and thousands of compartments. The doctor pulled out his sonic screwdriver. This is keyed to the TARDIS's temporal signature. Within range, I can track her precisely. And once I'm inside the ship's network, I can access their security systems, find exactly where they're keeping her. And the extraction? Draven asked, having joined the group. Once you have your ship, how do you escape a star destroyer surrounded by TIE fighters and Imperial forces? The doctor's grin turned slightly manic. That's the beautiful part. I don't escape. The TARDIS does. Once I'm inside her, I can dematerialize, leave the Star Destroyer entirely. The dimensional stabilizers might be damaged, but for a short-range jump, she'll hold together. Probably. 87% chance. Maybe 82%. Those are terrible odds, Krennic said. Compared to infiltrating Vader's flagship inside a fake probe droid. These are excellent odds. Mon Mothma had been listening quietly. Now she stepped forward. Doctor, you understand this is incredibly dangerous. If you're captured, the Empire will learn everything about you. About the TARDIS. They could use that knowledge against us. They won't capture me, the doctor said with absolute certainty. I've been captured by Daleks, Cybermen, the Master, and the Silence. Travel. Not with TARDIS weapons. But with something more powerful, knowledge. Strategy. The experience of someone who's toppled 1,000 empires and can teach you how to topple one more. We'll hold you to that, Mon Mothma said. At dawn, the modified probe droid was loaded onto a small rebel transport. The doctor climbed into the cramped interior compartment, folding his long limbs into the impossibly small space. Comfy? Han asked from outside. Not even remotely, the doctor's muffled voice replied. This is like being buried alive in a metal coffin with delusions of grandeur. Just like home, then. I'm beginning to understand why Leia finds you insufferable. Han laughed. Good luck, document bring your ship home. The compartment sealed. The transport lifted off, carrying the disguised probe droid toward the Ring-Ali shell, toward the Devastator, toward Darth Vader and the Emperor. Inside the cramped darkness, the doctor whispered to himself, Okay, TARDIS. I'm coming. Just hold on a little longer. Your thief is on his way. And in the deepest levels of the Star Destroyer Devastator, in a specially constructed containment cell filled with force-dampening technology and dimensional stabilizers, the TARDIS's windows flickered weakly. Waiting. The Ring-Ali shell was a backwater sector of unremarkable star systems, trading posts, and forgotten colonies. Under normal circumstances, the Empire barely noticed it. But rebel activity in any sector demanded investigation, which was why 3 Viper probe droids launched from the Devastator's deployment bay, spreading across the region to scan for insurgent signatures. One of those droids was different. Inside the cramped compartment, the doctor counted seconds by his heartbeats. The twin rhythm of a Time Lord cardiovascular system providing an oddly comforting metronome in the suffocating darkness. The probe droid's repulsor lifts hummed. Sensors pinged. And every few minutes, the droid transmitted fabricated scan data to the Devastator, reporting no rebel presence in its assigned grid. 2 hours in a metal sphere, the doctor muttered to himself. I've been in worse situations. The Pandorica was smaller. And that time I was trapped in Nixon's safe. And the shrinking incident with Amy and Rory. Although this is definitely top 10 for uncomfortable. His sonic screwdriver glowed faintly, monitoring the droid systems and tracking the distance to the Devastator. 3 kilometers. 2. 1. The probe droid's recall signal activated. It turned, repulsor lifts engaging, and headed back toward the massive star destroyer that dominated local space like a steel dagger pointed at the stars. Through microscopic external cameras jury-rigged to his compartment, the doctor watched the Devastator grow larger. 1,600 meters of Imperial engineering. Thousands of crew members. Dozens of TIE fighters. Turbolaser batteries capable of reducing cities to ash. And somewhere inside, his TARDIS. Right then, he whispered. Time to be very, very clever. The probe droid entered the Devastator's hangar bay, joining dozens of other returning probes in a designated recovery area. Technicians in Imperial uniforms moved among them, downloading data, performing maintenance scans, and causing problems with adjacent systems. The doctor let frustration creep into his voice. Look, you want to tell Lord Vader why his mysterious prisoner's containment field failed because I wasn't allowed to do my job, be my guest. Otherwise, let me through so I can fix this before someone important gets angry. The mention of Vader worked like magic. The stormtroopers exchanged glances, then stepped aside. Proceed. But stay in authorized areas only. Wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, the doctor said, walking past them with forced calm. Inside, he was screaming. That actually worked. That actually worked. Invoking Vader's name just made Imperial stormtroopers back down. This empire is terrifying but also incredibly bureaucratic, which is both helpful and deeply disturbing. He navigated 3 more checkpoints using variations of the same technique. Stolen credentials, manufactured urgency, and the magical invocation of either Vader or orders from command. Each time, the Imperial personnel let him pass, too conditioned to following orders to question a technician who seemed to know where he was going. Finally, he reached level 23, Section 7. The corridor leading to the containment area was different from the rest of the ship. The walls were darker. The lighting was dimmer. And the air itself felt heavier, charged with something that made the doctor's Time Lord senses recoil. The dark side, he realized. This entire section is saturated with it. 2 stormtroopers flanked the containment chamber entrance. And standing between them, 2 figures in dark robes and masks, the Inquisitors. Their presence in the Force was like open wounds, twisted and corrupted. The doctor took a deep breath and walked forward. "Halt," one of the Inquisitors said, her voice filtered through her mask. "This area is restricted." "Tech Specialist Cass," the doctor said, showing his badge again. "I'm here to address the power fluctuations in the containment field. Engineering sent me." He needed a disguise. A plan. And a significant amount of luck. A lone technician walked past, arms full of datapads, heading toward a storage room. The doctor followed silently, sonic screwdriver ready. As the technician entered the storage room, the doctor slipped in behind him. "Sorry about this," the doctor said, sonic-ing the door lock behind them. The technician spun, reaching for his comlink. The doctor sonicked that too, frying the circuits. "Really sorry. But I need your uniform, your access codes, and your best advice on how to walk around this ship without getting shot." The technician stared at him in shock. You're a rebel." "Not exactly. I'm more of an independent contractor currently working with the rebels on a freelance basis." "But that's semantics. The uniform, please." 5 minutes later, the doctor emerged wearing an ill-fitting Imperial technician's uniform. The real technician bound and gagged in the storage room with profuse apologies. The doctor had carefully adjusted the uniform's cap to hide his distinctive hair and walked with the purposeful stride of someone who belonged exactly where they were. "Confidence," he muttered. "That's the key. Look like you're supposed to be here, and no one questions you. Usually. Sometimes. This is a terrible plan." He made it 2 corridors before encountering his first stormtrooper patrol. "Halt," one of them commanded, raising a hand. "Identify yourself." The doctor pulled out the stolen ID badge, his heart, both of them, hammering. "Tech Specialist Joran Cass, reporting for secondary shift in engineering. Running behind schedule because the idiot on primary shift miscalibrated the port deflector array again." The stormtrooper scanned the badge. It passed. The doctor had sonicked it to match the stolen credentials perfectly. "You're out of your designated area. Because I was told to report to the specialized containment section first. Apparently, the power fluctuations from that blue box thing are." Circular chamber surrounded by humming energy fields and arcane Sith technology, sat the TARDIS. "Hello, old girl," the doctor said, breathless. "Miss me?" The TARDIS's windows flared brightly in response. Blaster fire hammered the containment chamber door. The Inquisitors were cutting through with their lightsabers, the red blades carving glowing lines through the durasteel. The doctor sprinted to the TARDIS, key already in hand. He unlocked the door and practically fell inside. The console room was in shambles. Wires hung from the ceiling. The time rotor sparked. Console displays flickered weakly. But she was alive. She was holding together. And now they were together again. "I know you're hurt," the doctor said, hands flying across the controls. "I know the dimensional stabilizers are fried and we're surrounded by dark side energy that's making you sick. But I need one jump. Just one. Short range. Get us out of this containment field, out of this ship, into open space. Can you do that for me?" The TARDIS groaned. Not the healthy grinding sound of engines engaging, but the painful whine of a ship pushed beyond her limits. "I know," the doctor whispered. "I know it hurts. But we're going home. Together." The containment chamber door exploded inward. The Inquisitors rushed in, lightsabers ignited, followed by a squad of stormtroopers. The doctor pulled the dematerialization lever. The TARDIS engines engaged with a sound like breaking glass and grinding metal. The ship shuddered. Console displays exploded. Smoke poured from the floor grating. But she dematerialized. The Inquisitors found themselves staring at empty space where the blue box had stood seconds before. Their quarry vanished into impossible dimensions. On the Devastator's bridge, alarms screamed. Sensors reported a massive dimensional anomaly. Something had just punched a hole through several layers of reality and disappeared. And in his meditation chamber, Darth Vader felt the disturbance, the void in the... The Inquisitor's masked face tilted, studying him. Through the Force, she reached out, trying to read his intentions. And found nothing. A void. An absence where a presence should be. She recoiled slightly. "You, what are you?" "Human, last time I checked." "Well, humanoid. Technically Gallifreyan, but that's a long story." The doctor kept his voice casual, but his hand drifted toward his sonic screwdriver hidden in his uniform pocket. "Look, I'm just here to do my job. The containment field is experiencing dimensional instabilities, and if I don't recalibrate the harmonics, you're going to have a cascading failure that'll take out half this deck. So, unless you want to explain to Lord Vader why his prisoner escaped, I suggest you let me in." The second Inquisitor stepped forward, his hand moving to the lightsaber at his belt. "The Force does not touch you. You are not human. You are something else." "I'm really not," the doctor said, pulling out his sonic screwdriver. "But I am getting impatient. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to step aside, let me into that containment room, and in exchange, I won't use this device to overload every lightsaber power cell within 10 meters, causing them to explode and take your hands with them." Both Inquisitors ignited their lightsabers, double-bladed red weapons that spun with mechanical precision. "Right," the doctor sighed. "The hard way it is." He activated the sonic screwdriver at maximum intensity, targeting the lightsaber's internal mechanisms. The weapon's power cells shrieked, their containment fields destabilizing. The Inquisitors were forced to deactivate them immediately or risk catastrophic feedback. In that moment of confusion, the doctor ran. Not toward the exit. Toward the containment chamber. He sonicked the door controls, overriding the lock, and threw himself through the opening blast doors. They slammed shut behind him as the Inquisitors and stormtroopers converged. And there, in the center of A. Cataloging returns. The doctor held his breath as a scanner passed over his droid. Krennic's codes worked perfectly. The authentication protocols accepted the fabricated identity. The technician marked the probe as cleared and moved on to the next one. Step 1 complete, the doctor breathed. Now for step 2, not dying while escaping this droid. He waited 20 minutes, an eternity in the cramped space, until the hangar activity decreased. Then he activated the sonic screwdriver, carefully unsealing the compartment from the inside. The probe droid's outer casing split silently along hidden seams. The doctor unfolded himself from the compartment with a series of pained groans, his joints protesting 2 hours in a fetal position. He stood behind a stack of cargo containers, taking stock of his surroundings. The hangar was vast. TIE fighters hung in maintenance racks. Shuttles were being refueled. Stormtroopers patrolled in pairs. And everywhere, the oppressive sense of Imperial order, everything precise, regulated, controlled. "I hate the Empire," the doctor muttered, adjusting his bow tie. "Fascists always have such boring architecture." He pulled out the sonic screwdriver and extended it toward the nearest data port. The device interfaced with the Devastator's network, bypassing security protocols with temporal algorithms that the Empire's designers had never anticipated. Schematics flooded his mind. Deck layouts. Security checkpoints. Crew rotations. And there, Level 23, Section 7, specialized containment area, an isolated chamber surrounded by enough power signatures to suggest something very important was being held there. "Found you," he whispered. According to the ship's internal sensors, the containment area was guarded by 2 stormtroopers and monitored by a pair of Imperial Inquisitors. Force-sensitive agents who hunted surviving Jedi. The doctor's expression darkened. The Emperor was taking his TARDIS very seriously. Force, that was the doctor, now free and escaping. He activated his comlink. "Bridge. Track that ship. I want to know where it goes." But the TARDIS was already gone, tumbling through the dimensional barriers between normal space and the time vortex, carrying a Time Lord who clung to the console as his ship screamed in protest. "Hang on," the doctor shouted over the noise. "Just a little further. Just." The TARDIS exploded out of the Devastator's local space in a flash of temporal energy, visible for a split second before vanishing entirely. And crashed. Again. This time into the Yavin system, tumbling through space, engines dying, falling toward the jungle moon like a dying star wrapped in blue paint. The doctor's last thought before the console exploded and everything went black: "At least we're together." The TARDIS fell from orbit like a comet wrapped in dying temporal energy. Rebel sensors on Yavin 4 detected the anomaly immediately, an impossible object moving at terminal velocity, radiating chronon particles and dimensional instabilities that made their instruments scream with feedback. In the command center, Mon Mothma stared at the tactical display. "What is that?" "Unknown energy signature," a technician reported. "Mass approximately 12 tons, velocity increasing, trajectory puts impact in the northern jungle sector in 90 seconds. Leia's eyes widened. "It's the doctor. It has to be. He's crashing. Again. Scramble rescue teams." Mon Mothma ordered. "And pray to whatever gods are listening that he survived." The TARDIS hit the jungle canopy at 200 kilometers per hour. Trees exploded. Ancient vegetation that had stood for millennia disintegrated. The ship carved a burning trench through the undergrowth before slamming into a massive Massassi temple ruin and finally, mercifully, stopping. Smoke poured from the shattered windows. The doors hung open at twisted angles. And inside, sprawled across the console room floor surrounded by sparking wires and broken crystals, the doctor lay unconscious, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. The TARDIS's systems were dying. The time rotor had frozen mid-cycle. Console displays were dark. The gentle hum that normally filled the ship had faded to silence. But deep within the ship's wounded heart, a single system activated. Emergency protocols. Distress beacon. Broadcasting on frequencies that would be heard by anyone attuned to temporal mechanics. And in the Force, across the galaxy, certain beings felt something. A ripple. A wound in the fabric of reality. A cry for help from something that existed outside their understanding. Emperor Palpatine felt it in his throne room on Imperial Center, and smiled. Darth Vader felt it aboard the Devastator, and clenched his fists. And on Yavin 4, Leia felt it without. Understanding why, a sudden urgency, a need to reach the crash site immediately. The rebel rescue team arrived within 20 minutes, speeder bikes and a hover transport cutting through the jungle. Han Solo led them, Chewbacca at his side, with a squad of rebel medics and engineers following. They found the TARDIS half buried in temple rubble, smoke still rising from the impact crater. The ship looked worse than before, scorched, cracked, listing at a 15-degree angle. "Doctor!" Han shouted, approaching the open doors cautiously. "You in there?" No response. Han and Chewbacca entered carefully, weapons drawn despite knowing the doctor had no enemies here. The console room was devastation incarnate. Everything that could break had broken. And in the center of it all, the doctor lay motionless. "Oh no," Han breathed. He knelt beside the Time Lord, checking for a pulse. "Chewie, get the medics." "He's alive, but barely." Chewbacca roared for the medical team while Han carefully examined the doctor. The head wound was bleeding heavily, and the doctor's breathing was shallow, irregular. But strangest of all, Han could feel 2 heartbeats when he checked the doctor's pulse. Weak, out of sync, but definitely 2 distinct rhythms. "What are you?" Han muttered. The doctor's eyes flickered open for just a moment. "Failed, dimensional, jump. TARDIS, dying. Need. Need what, Doc? What do you need?" "Artron, energy. Time vortex, exposure. 0, room." The doctor's eyes closed again. "She's dying, can't save." He went limp. The medical team arrived, loading the doctor onto a hover stretcher. But as they tried to carry him out, the TARDIS groaned, a sound of such profound agony that it made everyone stop. One of the rebel engineers, a woman named Tyla Nesson who'd worked on the probe droid, stepped toward the console. She placed a hand on it and gasped. "What?" Han demanded. "What is it?" "The ship, it's alive. I can feel it. Not just technology. It's actually alive, and it's..." Tears streamed down her face. "It's begging us not to take him. It needs him. They're connected somehow." Han looked at the unconscious doctor, then at the dying TARDIS. "Then we treat both of them. Here. Set up a field medical station inside. Whatever the doc needs, whatever this ship needs, we provide it." "Understood." The team scrambled into action. 6 hours later, the TARDIS had become an improvised medical bay and engineering workshop. The doctor lay on a medical cot surrounded by monitoring equipment, his vital signs stabilized but still unconscious. Around him, rebel technicians worked frantically on the TARDIS's systems, following instructions from a datapad the doctor had apparently prepared, in case of catastrophic crash scenarios, which said something disturbing about how often this happened to him. Leia sat beside the doctor's cot, studying his face. He looked young, mid-30s perhaps. But there was something in his features that suggested vast age. Laugh lines around his eyes. A weariness that no amount of youthful energy could hide. "Why did you come back?" she asked the unconscious Time Lord. "You could have escaped. Jumped to anywhere in space and time. Why crash here?" "Because he promised," Mon Mothma said from the doorway. She entered, carrying a cup of CAF. "He promised to help us win this war. And he's the type who keeps his promises, even when it costs him everything." "The TARDIS is dying," Leia said quietly. "The engineers say the dimensional stabilizers are beyond repair. The temporal engines are fused. Even if the doctor wakes up, his ship might never fly again. Then he'll be trapped here. In our galaxy. Our war." Mon Mothma sipped her CAF. "The question is, what do we do with him? He's the most valuable intelligence asset we've ever encountered. His knowledge alone could shift the balance of this war. But the Empire knows about him now. Vader knows about him. They'll be hunting him. Let them hunt. Together. But we'd have to carry him there, and I don't think his injuries will survive the move. The TARDIS hologram changed again. Will stabilize. Carry Doctor to Zero Room. Must reconnect. Must heal. Please. The word please hung in the air, projected in desperate glowing letters. Leia stood. Then that's what we do. Prepare to move him. Your Highness, one of the medics protested. The ship is alive and it's asking for help, Leia said firmly. We don't abandon our allies, even when they're impossible blue boxes from other universes. Prepare to move the Doctor. Carefully. They carried the Doctor deeper into the TARDIS, following the holographic guide through corridors that seemed to shift and reconfigure around them. The ship's interior was vast, impossibly, geometrically vast, with hallways that extended far beyond the exterior dimensions. This doesn't make sense, one of the medics muttered. The ship is maybe 3 meters square on the outside. How is this possible? Dimensional transcendence, Tyla said, reading from her datapad notes. The Doctor tried to explain it. The TARDIS exists in a state of quantum superposition across multiple spatial dimensions. The exterior is just an interface. The interior is, somewhere else. Everywhere else. I don't fully understand it. They descended spiraling staircases, passed through chambers filled with strange artifacts and alien technology, and finally reached a circular door engraved with intricate symbols. The door opened automatically. Beyond was a room of pure white. Featureless walls. No angles. No corners. A space that seemed to exist outside normal geometry, where even sound was muffled, where the very concept of outside seemed to fade away. The Zero Room. They laid the Doctor gently on the white floor. Immediately, the room responded. The walls began to glow softly. The Doctor's breathing steadied. His twin heartbeats synchronized. And the TARDIS throughout the ship groaned with something that sounded almost like relief. Leave him, Tyla whispered. This place, it's healing both of them. I can feel it. We need to go. As they filed out, Leia paused at the door, looking back at the Doctor. Fight, she said quietly. We need you. The galaxy needs you. The door closed silently. In the Zero Room, the Doctor dreamed. He dreamed of Gallifrey. Of the Academy. Of running through red grass under burnt orange skies. He dreamed of companions. So many companions. Some he'd saved. Some he'd lost. He dreamed of the Time War. Of Daleks screaming. Of Gallifrey burning. And he dreamed of a promise. The promise he'd made to himself when he'd ended the war. Never again would he use time as a weapon. Never again would he prioritize the universe over the individual. Never again would he be the warrior. Only the Doctor. But this war, this rebellion against the Empire, it was asking him to be both. To use his knowledge to help them fight. To potentially sacrifice billions to save trillions. To make the choices he'd sworn never to make again. In the dream, he stood before the War Council of Gallifrey. The Time Lords demanded answers. You cannot intervene, they said. The rebellion's war is not your concern. Fix your TARDIS and leave. I can't, Dream Doctor replied. The TARDIS is dying. I'm trapped here. Then you've failed. Again. No. The Doctor's voice strengthened. I've chosen. I'm choosing to help people who are fighting for freedom against tyranny. That's not failure. That's exactly what the Doctor does. The Time Lords faded. The dream shifted. Now he stood on Alderaan. Not the destroyed Alderaan, but the planet as it had been. Billions of people living their lives, unaware that in days or hours, they would cease to exist. A voice spoke from behind him. The Valiad, his dark potential future self from his encounter in the Star Trek universe. You could save them, the Valiad said. You have the TARDIS. Use it. Go back. Prevent the Death Star from ever being built. Save Alderaan. And destroy the timeline, the Doctor replied. Create paradoxes that would tear this galaxy apart. Since when do you care about timelines over lives? The Doctor turned to face his dark reflection. Since I destroyed Gallifrey to save all of reality. I learned that some costs are too high, even for saving lives. Alderaan is gone. I can't change that. But I can help make sure it never happens again. The Valiad smiled coldly. Noble words. But this war will demand blood, Doctor. Yours or theirs. Eventually, you'll have to choose. Then I'll choose, the Doctor said. But I'll do it my way. Without compromising who I am. We'll see. The dream dissolved. The Doctor's eyes opened. He lay in perfect white silence. The Zero Room. The TARDIS had brought him here, was healing him here. He could feel her presence all around him, not just the ship's consciousness, but her love, her relief that he was back, her fear that she was dying. I'm here, he whispered to the emptiness. I'm not leaving you. He closed his eyes and reached out with his Time Lord senses, connecting to the TARDIS's systems. He could feel the damage, the fried dimensional stabilizers, the severed connection to the Eye of Harmony, the temporal engines on the verge of total collapse. But he could also feel something else. The Force. That pervasive energy field that saturated this galaxy. It was everywhere, even here in the Zero Room, though muted and distant. And in that moment, the Doctor understood. The TARDIS couldn't function properly here because the force and temporal mechanics were incompatible. Like trying to run a combustion engine underwater. The fundamental physics were wrong. But what if they weren't incompatible? What if the force was just another form of dimensional energy, and the TARDIS could be adapted to work with it instead of against it? It would require complete reconfiguration of the dimensional stabilizers. New algorithms. New engineering paradigms. And it. Leia said with surprising fierceness. The Doctor stood up to an Inquisitor. He infiltrated a Star Destroyer. He escaped Vader's flagship with his ship. If the Empire wants him, they'll have to go through the entire rebellion to get him. Mon Mothma smiled slightly. You've grown attached to him. He's the first person I've met who treats the Force like it's just another natural phenomenon instead of mystical destiny. Who believes in choice over fate. Who fights tyranny because it's wrong, not because some ancient prophecy says he should. Leia looked down at the Doctor. Yes. I suppose I have. The TARDIS console suddenly sparked. Both women jumped. And from the damaged time rotor, a holographic image flickered to life, a circular Gallifreyan symbol rotating slowly, projecting words in Basic. Help. Temporal radiation required. Dying. Artron energy depleted. It's asking for help, Leia breathed. The ship is communicating with us. More text appeared, Doctor cannot repair alone. Symbiotic relationship breaking. Both will die without intervention. What kind of intervention? Mon Mothma asked. The hologram shifted, showing a schematic. A crystalline structure, a chamber, and complex energy patterns. Tyla Nesson, the engineer, appeared from beneath the console, covered in grease and holding a broken component. I've been studying the ship's systems. It's powered by something called the Eye of Harmony. A captured star in a permanent state of decay, existing in a pocket dimension accessed through the TARDIS's core. But the dimensional breach damaged the connection. The ship's cutting itself off from its power source to prevent a catastrophic explosion. Can it be repaired? Leia asked. Not by us. This technology is centuries beyond anything we have. But. Tyla gestured at the hologram. The ship is showing us something. A chamber deep inside. The Zero Room, the doctor mentioned it. It's a place isolated from the outside universe, where he and the ship can heal. Would change the TARDIS fundamentally, no longer purely a Time Lord ship, but something hybrid. Something new. Are you willing to change, the doctor asked the ship. To become something different than what the Time Lords designed? To adapt to this galaxy's rules instead of fighting them? The TARDIS responded with a feeling of warmth, of trust, of a simple truth: as long as we're together, I can be anything. The doctor smiled through tears. Then let's get to work. He stood, still weak but driven by purpose. The Zero Room's healing wasn't complete, but it was enough. He had work to do. He walked to the door, which opened at his approach, and stepped back into the TARDIS's corridors. Outside, in the console room, rebel engineers were cataloging damage when the doctor appeared, looking pale but determined. "Doctor!" Tyla exclaimed. "You're awake. You should be resting." "No time for resting," the doctor said, striding to the console. "I need to rebuild my ship, and I'm going to need help. Your help. Because what I'm about to attempt has never been done before, and if it works, the TARDIS will become the first ship to bridge temporal mechanics and force energy. And if it fails, we all get turned into quantum dust. So, who wants to make history?" Despite everything, the danger, the impossibility, the sheer insanity, Tyla grinned. "I'm in." One by one, the other rebel engineers nodded. The doctor clapped his hands together. "Brilliant. Let's save a TARDIS and win a war." Not necessarily in that order. For 3 weeks, the TARDIS became the center of an unprecedented collaboration between Time Lord ingenuity and rebel engineering. The doctor worked 18-hour days, fueled by tea that the rebels learned to brew according to his increasingly specific instructions and a manic energy that bordered on obsession. Around him, a rotating team of engineers, technicians, and occasionally bemused pilots watched as he tore apart and rebuilt his ship's dimensional architecture. "What you need to understand," the doctor explained to Tyla and her team on day 4, gesturing wildly at a holographic schematic that hurt to look at directly, "is that the TARDIS was designed to navigate the time vortex, a dimension of pure temporal energy that exists beneath normal spacetime. But this galaxy doesn't have a time vortex. Instead, you have the Force. A binding energy field created by living consciousness. Completely different fundamental physics. It's like trying to sail a boat designed for water through sand. The boat works perfectly, but the medium is wrong. So we need to modify the engines to work in sand instead of water," Tyla said, following his metaphor. "Exactly. Except the sand is actually a mystical energy field that responds to emotion and intent. The boat is a dimensionally transcendent time machine, and if we get the calculations wrong, we create a black hole that consumes Yavin 4. So, slight pressure." Mon Mothma visited regularly, observing the work with increasing concern. "Doctor, the Empire has increased patrols in neighboring systems. Our intelligence suggests they're searching for you. For the TARDIS." "Let them search," the doctor said, not looking up from the crystalline matrix he was recalibrating. "They won't find us. The TARDIS's perception filter is still functioning. To Imperial sensors, we're just part of the temple ruins. Boring old rocks. Nothing to see here. And when you finish repairs?" The doctor paused, setting down his tools. Temporal force hybrid energy that lit up every sensor within 10 parsecs. On the Devastator's bridge, alarms screamed. "Sir," a sensor officer reported. "Massive energy signature detected in the Yavin system. Same quantum signature as the dimensional anomaly that escaped our containment." Darth Vader stood from his meditation chamber platform. "Plot an intercept course. Maximum speed. Lord Vader, the signature is near the 4th moon. Intelligence suggests the rebel base may be located there." "I'm aware," Vader said coldly. "But the doctor is the priority. The rebels can be dealt with after we secure the TARDIS. Set course immediately. The Devastator's massive engines flared. The Star Destroyer turned ponderously, then jumped to hyperspace, carrying Vader and a full complement of Imperial forces toward the Yavin system. Toward the Doctor. Inside the TARDIS, the Doctor monitored Imperial communications through the ship's universal translator. He listened as Vader's orders filtered through the fleet, directing probe droids, TIE squadrons, and support vessels to converge on his position. "Good," he muttered. "Come on, then. Come and get me." He set the TARDIS to drift at the system's edge, engines powered down but still detectable. A lure. A target too tempting for Vader to ignore. The comlink Leia had given him crackled. "Doctor, this is Rebel Command. We're reading massive Imperial fleet movements toward your position. You've got their attention." "Brilliant. How's the evacuation progressing?" 48 hours minimum to full evacuation. "Can you survive that long?" The Doctor looked at the TARDIS console, at the barely repaired systems, at the jury-rigged modifications that might fail at any moment. "I can try. The TARDIS can jump around the system, stay mobile, play cat and mouse with them. But eventually, they'll corner me. When that happens..." He trailed off. "When that happens..." Mon Mothma's voice came through the comlink. "When that happens, I'll have to." 4 hours later, the TARDIS stood ready. The console room still showed signs of damage, scorched panels, exposed wiring, the occasional spark, but the time rotor glowed with renewed energy. The dimensional stabilizers hummed. The ship was alive, conscious, and ready to prove she could still protect her pilot. The Doctor stood at the console, hands hovering over the controls. Around him, the rebel engineering team had evacuated, giving him space. Only Leia remained. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. "Take backup." Han and Chewie volunteer. Well, Chewie volunteered, Han complained, but he'd go. "No. What I'm about to do requires someone who can talk very fast, think even faster, and survive encounters that should absolutely be fatal through sheer stubbornness and ridiculous luck. That's a very specific skill set, and I'm the only one qualified." He smiled softly. "But thank you. For trusting me. For giving me a purpose again." Leia stepped forward and, to the Doctor's surprise, hugged him. "May the Force be with you." "And also with you," he replied, then paused. "Wait, is that the correct response? I'm still learning your cultural phrases." She laughed despite the tension. "Close enough." Leia left. The TARDIS doors closed. And the Doctor was alone with his ship. "Right then, old girl," he said, stroking the console affectionately. "Moment of truth. Let's see if our modifications worked, or if we're about to become a very pretty explosion." He pulled the dematerialization lever. The TARDIS engines engaged, not with the healthy wheeze groan of old, but with a new sound. Deeper. Resonant. As if the ship was harmonizing with something vast and ancient. The Force itself seemed to respond, flowing through the ship's systems, powering the dimensional jump through an entirely new mechanism. The TARDIS vanished from the jungle temple. And reappeared at the edge of the Yavin system, 3 light minutes from the nearest Imperial probe droid, engines blazing with. "Stabilizers functional." Tyla consulted her datapad. "Maybe 60% operational. The TARDIS can probably make short-range jumps within the same star system, but anything longer would be catastrophically unstable. Short range is enough." The Doctor grabbed his tweed jacket from where it hung on the console. "I'm going to take the TARDIS, jump to the outer system, and let those probe droids detect me." Led them away from Yavin 4. "When Vader follows, you use that window to complete your evacuation preparations." "That's suicide," Han said from the doorway, Chewbacca beside him. "You're half repaired, the TARDIS barely works, and you want to draw Vader's entire fleet to your position? Yes. It's perfect. Well, not perfect. Deeply flawed, actually. But it's the best bad plan we have. The doctor was already moving around the console, initiating pre-flight sequences. Besides, Vader wants me alive. He wants to understand what I am, how the TARDIS works. That gives me leverage. Or it gets you captured and tortured, Leia said flatly. Been captured before. Been tortured before. Survived both. What I won't survive is sitting here while the Empire destroys another rebel base because of me. The doctor's voice carried an edge of steel. I brought this danger to you. I'll lead it away. Mon Mothma exchanged glances with Leia and Draven. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Finally, Mon Mothma nodded. How long do you need to prepare? 2 hours. Maybe 3. Need to finish the stabilizer recalibration and hope the TARDIS doesn't explode when I try to dematerialize. He looked at his assembled team of rebel engineers. Thank you. All of you. For believing in an impossible box and a ridiculous man with a bow tie. You've helped me save her. That means more than you know. Tyla smiled. Just come back alive so we can see her fly. Talk to Vader. Really talk to him. Not as enemies. But as two beings who've both made terrible choices and have to live with them. If I can reach him, reach the person beneath the mask, maybe I can buy you more time. Maybe I can even. He paused. Maybe I can plant a seed. The idea that redemption is possible. Even for someone who's fallen as far as he has. That's incredibly dangerous, Leia said. Everything worth doing is dangerous. Now get back to your evacuation. I've got a Dark Lord to annoy. He closed the channel and turned back to the TARDIS console. Through the view screen, he could see hyperspace ruptures appearing. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. TIE fighters launching. Star destroyers deploying in formation. And at the center of it all, the Devastator. Here we go, the doctor said, pulling the TARDIS into a short jump that deposited them 50,000 kilometers away, still visible but out of immediate weapons range. Let's dance. For the next 6 hours, the doctor played the most dangerous game of his life. The TARDIS would appear, Imperial forces would converge, and just as they reached firing range, the ship would vanish and reappear elsewhere in the system. Each jump drained power. Each rematerialization stressed the damaged systems further. But it worked. The Empire chased shadows while the rebellion evacuated. On the Devastator's bridge, Captain Gage was growing frustrated. Lord Vader, the target is deliberately evading us. Every time we close range, it vanishes. I'm aware, Captain, Vader said, his mechanical breathing the only sound in the suddenly quiet bridge. Through the Force, he could feel the doctor, or rather, feel the absence where the doctor should be. It was like tracking a void, a hole in reality itself. But the ship's energy signatures are weakening. Each jump is costing them power. Eventually, they'll make a mistake. 2 hours later, they did. The TARDIS materialized too close to a moon in the outer system. 4 hours later, the TARDIS stood ready. The console room still showed signs of damage, scorched panels, exposed wiring, the occasional spark, but the time rotor glowed with renewed energy. The dimensional stabilizers hummed. The ship was alive, conscious, and ready to prove she could still protect her pilot. The doctor stood at the console, hands hovering over the controls. Around him, the rebel engineering team had evacuated, giving him space. Only Leia remained. You don't have to do this alone, she said. Take backup. Han and Chewie volunteer. Well, Chewie volunteered, Han complained, but he'd go. No. What I'm about to do requires someone who can talk very fast, think even faster, and survive encounters that should absolutely be fatal through sheer stubbornness and ridiculous luck. That's a very specific skill set, and I'm the only one qualified. He smiled softly. But thank you. For trusting me. For giving me a purpose again. Leia stepped forward and, to the doctor's surprise, hugged him. May the Force be with you. And also with you, he replied, then paused. Wait, is that the correct response? I'm still learning your cultural phrases. She laughed despite the tension. Close enough. Leia left. The TARDIS doors closed. And the doctor was alone with his ship. Right then, old girl, he said, stroking the console affectionately. Moment of truth. Let's see if our modifications worked, or if we're about to become a very pretty explosion. He pulled the dematerialization lever. The TARDIS engines engaged, not with the healthy wheeze groan of old, but with a new sound. Deeper. Resonant. As if the ship was harmonizing with something vast and ancient. The Force itself seemed to respond, flowing through the ship's systems, powering the dimensional jump through an entirely new mechanism. The TARDIS vanished from the jungle temple. And reappeared at the edge of the Yavin system, 3 light minutes from the nearest Imperial probe droid, engines blazing with its gravitational field interfering with the dimensional calculations. The engine stuttered. The time rotor froze mid-cycle. And before the doctor could compensate, 3 star destroyers dropped out of hyperspace in a perfect triangle formation, tractor beams engaging immediately. The TARDIS shuddered as invisible energy gripped her, pulling her toward the Devastator's main hangar bay. No, 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 the doctor muttered, working frantically at the controls. Come on, girl, one more jump. Just one more. The TARDIS groaned. Sparks flew. But the dimensional stabilizers, pushed beyond their limits for hours, finally failed. They were caught. The tractor beams pulled them inexorably toward Vader's flagship. The doctor watched through the viewscreen as the massive hangar bay grew closer, filled with stormtroopers, Imperial officers, and at the center of it all, a figure in black armor whose presence made the Force itself recoil. The doctor took a deep breath, straightened his bow tie, and picked up his sonic screwdriver. Right then, he said to the TARDIS. We've been captured by fascists, we're about to be interrogated by a Sith Lord, and our only hope is that I can talk fast enough to avoid being force-choked. So. Tuesday, really. Just another Tuesday. The TARDIS touched down in the hangar. The engines died. The doors remained sealed. Outside, Darth Vader approached, his footsteps echoing across the deck. He stopped before the blue box, studying it through the Force, feeling its alien wrongness. Doctor, Vader's voice resonated through the hangar, amplified by the ship's internal speakers. I know you can hear me. You cannot escape. You cannot hide. Open the door. Come out. And perhaps I will spare your rebel friends on Yavin 4. Then I help you. Properly. The TARDIS won't be able to time travel in this galaxy, the Force makes stable temporal navigation impossible without creating paradoxes. But she can still travel in space. Instantaneously. Anywhere in this galaxy, any planet, any location. Do you understand what that means? Mon Mothma's eyes widened. We could deploy strike teams anywhere. Hit Imperial installations and evacuate before they respond. Transport supplies to besieged rebel cells across the galaxy. Exactly. Not a weapon. A force multiplier. A way to be everywhere the Empire isn't expecting you. The doctor's expression turned serious. But I need to be clear, I won't use the TARDIS for direct military strikes. No orbital bombardments. No assassinations. No dropping bombs through temporal windows. The moment we weaponize her, we become what we're fighting against. Agreed, Mon Mothma said. The rebellion fights for freedom, not tyranny under a different name. We'll use your ship responsibly. Leia appeared in the TARDIS doorway, breathing hard from running. Doctor, we have a problem. A big one. Everyone turned. Imperial probe droids just appeared in the Yavin system. 6 of them. Real ones, not our fake. They're conducting a systematic search pattern. At their current rate, they'll reach this moon within 48 hours. The doctor's face went pale. Vader. He's hunting me. The TARDIS's distress beacon. It must have given him a general location before I shut it down. Can we evacuate? Mon Mothma asked. Move the base. Not in 48 hours, General Draven said, joining them. We have hundreds of personnel, tons of equipment, starfighters that need to be prepped. We'd need at least a week to evacuate completely. Then we don't evacuate, the doctor said, his mind already racing. We give Vader what he's looking for. Me. But not here. What are you proposing? Leia asked. The doctor turned to his team of engineers. How close are we to having the dimensional? Inside the TARDIS, the doctor closed his eyes. This was it. The moment where everything could go catastrophically wrong. Or where he might plant the seeds of redemption in the heart of the galaxy's greatest villain. He opened the TARDIS doors and stepped out, hands raised, sonic screwdriver visible but not activated. Hello, Vader, the doctor said calmly. I believe we need to talk. About the Empire. About the Force. And about a man named Anakin Skywalker, who I think is still in there, buried beneath all that armor and rage. The hangar fell absolutely silent. Vader's hand moved to his lightsaber. And the doctor smiled that impossible smile, the smile of a man who'd stared down gods and refused to blink. Go ahead, the doctor said. Strike me down. But know this, I've seen your future, Vader. And it doesn't end the way you think it does. It ends with a choice. And I'm here to make sure you remember that you still have one. The hangar bay of the Devastator was a cathedral of Imperial power. Dozens of stormtroopers stood in perfect formation, weapons trained on the blue box and the strange man in the bow tie. Officers watched from elevated platforms. TIE fighters hung in their racks like sleeping predators. And in the center of it all, Darth Vader stood motionless, his hand still resting on his lightsaber hilt. The doctor stood before him, unarmed except for his sonic screwdriver, which he deliberately placed on the TARDIS's exterior. There. No weapons. Well, no traditional weapons. I've got my wits, my charm, and an encyclopedic knowledge of temporal mechanics, but I'm guessing those don't count. You speak of Anakin Skywalker, Vader said, his voice devoid of emotion. That name no longer has meaning to me. Doesn't it? Because from where I'm standing, every choice you've made since putting on that armor has been about him. About the pain of losing what he loved. About the fear that drove him to the dark side. About the anger at a universe that took everything from him. The doctor took a step forward. Stormtroopers tensed, but Vader raised a hand, stopping them. You say the name has no meaning, but you're still reacting to it. That means something of him remains. You know nothing of what I've become. I know everything about what you've become. I've seen it 1,000 times across 1,000 worlds. The good man who falls. The hero who embraces darkness thinking it will give him the power to save what he loves, only to destroy it instead. The warrior who becomes the tyrant. The doctor's voice softened. But I've also seen the next part of the story. The part where the fallen can rise again. Where redemption is possible, even for those who think they're beyond saving. Vader's breathing. That mechanical rhythm that dominated every silence, seemed to hitch. For just a moment. The Emperor has foreseen your arrival. He knows what you are. A being from beyond this galaxy, outside. The Force's influence. He has ordered me to bring you before him. And you always follow orders, don't you? The perfect servant. Tell me, Vader, when did you stop making your own choices? When did you surrender the last piece of Anakin Skywalker to Palpatine's control? The lightsaber ignited with a snap hiss, its red blade humming millimeters from the doctor's throat. The doctor didn't flinch. Go ahead. But you should know, Time Lords don't die easily. We regenerate. Whole new body, whole new face. You'll kill this version of me, but another will take my place, and that doctor might not be as interested in saving you as I am. Saving me? Vader's laugh was bitter, mechanical. I am beyond salvation. I have destroyed worlds. Slaughtered billions. Hunted the Jedi to near extinction. What redemption could exist for one such as me? The same redemption that exists for me, the doctor said quietly. I ended the Time War, Vader. My people, the Time Lords, fought a war so terrible that time itself bled. Reality fractured. The universe screamed. And I ended it by destroying both sides. Daleks and Time Lords. Billions upon billions of lives, extinguished because I decided it was necessary to save everything else. The lightsaber wavered slightly. I carry those deaths with me every day, the doctor continued. Every moment. Every regeneration. The weight never lessens. The guilt never fades. But I keep going. I keep helping people. I keep fighting tyranny. Because the alternative, surrendering to the darkness, becoming the monster, that's the real death. That's the moment when all those deaths become meaningless. You speak of philosophy while the Empire controls the galaxy, Vader said. Your words change nothing. Words change everything. Ideas topple empires. Hope defeats tyranny. And right now, there's a rebellion out there fighting because they believe freedom is worth dying for. They don't have your power. They don't have the Force. But they have something you've forgotten. Choice. The ability to decide who they want to be, regardless of what the universe demands. Vader deactivated the lightsaber. Enough. You will come with me to the Emperor. If you resist, I will destroy your ship and everyone aboard the rebel base on Yavin 4. If you comply, I will delay the assault on the moon. You have 30 seconds to decide. The doctor looked back at the TARDIS. His ship. His home. His oldest friend. Then he looked at Vader, seeing past the mask to the broken man beneath. I'll come with you, he said. On one condition. You give the rebels 48 hours. Let them evacuate. Let them live. They're not the threat you should be worried about, I am. Focus on me. You are hardly a threat. You have no army. No weapons. No power to challenge the Empire. The doctor smiled sadly. I'm a Time Lord from outside your reality who infiltrated your flagship, stole back his ship, and has been leading your entire fleet on a chase for 6 hours. I'm the living proof that the Empire isn't invincible. That there are forces in the universe beyond Palpatine's control. That the Force itself isn't the only power that matters. He stepped closer to Vader. I'm not a threat because of what I can do. I'm a threat because I represent an idea. That even the most powerful empire can be defeated by someone who refuses to give up. For a long moment, Vader stood silent. Around them, Imperial officers waited, uncertain. Stormtroopers held their weapons ready. The tension was unbearable. Finally, Vader spoke. You will accompany me to the Emperor. Your ship will remain here under guard. And I will delay the assault on Yavin 4 for 48 hours. But understand this, Doctor. If you attempt to escape, if you try to use your abilities against the Emperor, I will personally ensure that every rebel on that moon dies screaming. Understood, the doctor said. Take me to your emperor. Let's see if he's as impressive as his reputation suggests. The doctor was. Them. The emperor's expression darkened. Then you will serve as an example. I will dissect your mind. Learn your secrets. Discover how to breach the barriers between realities. And when I have taken everything from you, I will destroy your ship, erase your rebellion, and ensure that no one ever again believes they can defy the Empire. Palpatine raised his hand. Force lightning erupted, arcing toward the doctor. But something strange happened. The lightning reached the doctor, and stopped. Not because of any force barrier, but because the energy simply couldn't touch him. It flowed around him like water around a stone, crackling harmlessly into the floor. Palpatine's eyes widened. Impossible. I told you, the doctor said, standing despite the binders. I'm from outside. The force doesn't work on me. Your power, vast as it is, means nothing against someone who exists beyond its influence. Rage contorted Palpatine's features. Then I will kill you another way. He gestured at the Imperial guards. They moved forward, force pikes raised. Wait, Vader said. Everyone turned. Vader stepped between the Emperor and the Doctor. Master, this being could provide knowledge of dimensional travel. Technologies beyond our understanding. Killing him would be wasteful. You dare question me? Palpatine's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I merely suggest that understanding his abilities would serve the Empire better than destroying him in anger. Vader's tone was carefully neutral, but the Doctor could sense something else beneath it. Doubt. Hesitation. The first cracks in decades of absolute obedience. Palpatine studied his apprentice for a long moment. Perhaps you are correct, Lord Vader. Take him to the detention level. Level 5. The special cells designed for Force sensitives. Let us see if dimensional transcendence can protect him from more conventional methods of persuasion. Ruins the legacy. Palpatine smiled. You have no fear of me. How refreshing. Most who enter this chamber tremble. Most haven't traveled through time and space. Most haven't seen empires that make yours look like a child's sandcastle. Most haven't learned that tyrants, no matter how powerful, all fall eventually. So no, Emperor, I don't fear you. I pity you. The smile vanished. Pity. You had the entire galaxy at your feet. You could have built something magnificent. A true democracy, a golden age, a civilization that would be remembered for millennia. Instead, you chose fear. Control. Domination. You built an empire that will crumble the moment you die because it's held together by nothing but terror. That's not strength. That's weakness dressed in black robes. Lightning crackled around Palpatine's fingers. You dare lecture me? I, who have mastered the dark side. I, who have bent the Force itself to my will. The Force isn't yours to bend, the Doctor said calmly. It's a natural phenomenon. Energy created by living beings. You've learned to manipulate it, yes. But you don't control it any more than you control the tide. And it will outlast you, just like the rebellion will outlast the Empire. Palpatine gestured. The binders on the Doctor's wrists tightened, pressing against bone. Pain lanced through the Doctor's arms. But he didn't cry out. You are from beyond our galaxy, Palpatine said, standing. A being untouched by the Force. This makes you unique. Valuable. I have foreseen that you could be instrumental to the Empire's eternal reign. Join me, Doctor. Use your knowledge to strengthen the Empire. Help me create order across all dimensions, all realities. Together, we could transcend this single galaxy. Absolutely not, the Doctor said through gritted teeth. I've heard this speech before. From Daleks. From Cybermen. From the Master. Join me and we'll rule together. It's always the same. And the answer is always no. I don't join tyrants. I stop. No. But I can feel you. The hesitation when you delayed the assault on Yavin 4. The curiosity about what I am. The fact that you haven't killed me yet, even though it would be easier than keeping me alive. The doctor smiled gently. You want to understand me because I represent something you thought was impossible, freedom from the Force's binaries. Light and dark. Jedi and Sith. I exist outside those categories. And that terrifies you because it means there might be other ways to live. Other choices beyond the ones Palpatine has given you. The shuttle's intercom crackled, approaching Imperial Center. Beginning descent to the Imperial Palace. Vader stood. You will meet the Emperor. And you will learn that your words mean nothing in the face of true power. We'll see, the doctor said. The Imperial Palace was a monument to tyranny. It rose from the cityscape of Coruscant like a dark tower, its architecture deliberately imposing, designed to make anyone who approached feel small and insignificant. The doctor was marched through corridors lined with Imperial guards in crimson robes, their faces hidden behind helmets, their force pikes humming with deadly energy. They reached the throne room. The chamber was vast, dimly lit, with a single throne at its center elevated on a platform. And seated upon that throne, hooded in dark robes, was Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith, the most powerful Force user in the galaxy. Palpatine's voice was soft, almost gentle, but it carried an undercurrent of malice. The doctor. At last. I have waited with great interest to meet you. The doctor was forced to his knees by stormtroopers. He looked up at the Emperor, meeting those yellow eyes beneath the hood. Emperor Palpatine. Or should I call you Sidious? Or maybe just Sheev. I've read your file. Fascinating career arc, Senator to Chancellor to Emperor. Very impressive political maneuvering. Shame about the whole galactic tyranny thing, though. Really. Loaded aboard, and within minutes, they launched, heading toward Imperial Center, the capital world of the Empire, formerly known as Coruscant. During the journey, the doctor sat across from Vader in the shuttle's passenger compartment. No words were spoken, but the doctor studied the Sith Lord with open curiosity. You're in constant pain, the doctor said finally. The armor. The cybernetics. They're keeping you alive, but they're also torturing you. Every breath, every moment. Why doesn't Palpatine heal you properly? Bacta tanks, advanced prosthetics, proper medical care, the Empire has all of it. Vader's mask turned toward him. You presume much. I'm a doctor. Multiple doctorates, actually, though none in medicine, ironically. But I can see suffering when it's right in front of me. And I'm asking, why does he keep you in pain? The dark side feeds on suffering. Pain makes me stronger. Pain makes you controllable, the doctor corrected. It keeps you focused on your anger, your loss, your rage. It prevents you from thinking clearly. From questioning. From remembering who you used to be. He leaned forward despite the binders. That's not strength, Vader. That's a leash. And you're wearing it by choice. Silence. I will not be silent. Not when I can see what's happening. Palpatine didn't save you after Mustafar. He enslaved you. Locked you in a prison of constant agony and called it power. And you accepted it because you believed you deserved it. Because you thought you'd lost everything worth living for. Vader's hand clenched. The bulkhead beside the doctor crumpled inward, crushed by invisible force. But you didn't lose everything, the doctor continued, undeterred. Because there's still a part of you that feels. That questions. That remembers what it was like to be a Jedi, to believe in hope, to fight for something other than fear. I can feel it even now. The conflict inside you. You cannot feel the force. No. But I can feel you. The hesitation. Yes, my master, Vader said, gripping the doctor's arm. As the doctor was led away, he caught Vader's eye. And in that moment, he saw it, the tiniest flicker of conflict. Anakin Skywalker, buried deep beneath the armor and rage, hearing the doctor's words and, for the first time in decades, wondering if they might be true. It wasn't much. But it was a beginning. Detention Level 5 of the Imperial Palace was reserved for the Empire's most dangerous prisoners. Force sensitives who'd resisted conversion. Rebel leaders with critical intelligence. Beings whose very existence threatened Imperial doctrine. The cells were lined with cortosis or to dampen force abilities, equipped with neural disruptors, and monitored constantly by both technology and inquisitors. The doctor was thrown into cell 2187. A small, featureless room with walls that seemed to absorb light. The binders remained on his wrists. 2 Imperial guards stood outside the ray-shielded entrance. He sat on the metal bench, closed his eyes, and immediately began calculating. 48 hours, he thought. That's what Vader promised the rebels. 48 hours to evacuate Yavin 4. I bought them time. Now I need to survive long enough to ensure they use it. His sonic screwdriver was gone. Confiscated when he boarded Vader's shuttle. The TARDIS was light years away on the Devastator. He was alone, imprisoned in the heart of the Empire, surrounded by beings who wanted to dissect his mind and destroy everything he represented. So, he said aloud to the empty cell, typical Tuesday. Hours passed. No one came. No interrogation. No torture. Just silence and the dim red glow of the ray shield. Then, at hour 7, the shield deactivated. Darth Vader entered alone. The doctor stood. Come to gloat. Or are we finally having that conversation? Vader stood in the doorway, his breathing the only sound. The Emperor wants you broken. Interrogated. Your knowledge extracted and your will destroyed. He has ordered the Inquisitors to begin tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I've been interrogated by experts. One spent 3 days being questioned by the Shadow Proclamation about a misunderstanding involving the Arcadian Diamond and the Medusa Cascade. This should be comparatively pleasant. You will not survive the Inquisitors. They will tear your mind apart piece by piece until... I've done it before. Different palace, different galaxy, different circumstances, but the principle is the same. Tyrants always build elaborate prisons, and elaborate prisons always have weaknesses. I just need to find them. The doctor smiled. And I will. Because that's what I do. I find the impossible solution. I save the day. I give people hope when hope seems lost. You are either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Both. Definitely both. But I'm also incredibly stubborn, and that's gotten me through worse. Vader stood motionless for several heartbeats. Then he turned toward the door. The Inquisitors come at dawn. If you intend to escape, it must be before then. Is that advice? It is an observation. Vader paused at the threshold. The guard rotation changes in 2 hours. During the change, there is a 17-second window where this corridor is under reduced surveillance. The ventilation system access panel in the western wall of this cell is constructed of standard durasteel and can be opened with sufficient force. The shaft leads to the maintenance levels, which are staffed only during daytime hours. The doctor stared. You're telling me how to escape. I am telling you nothing. I am merely reciting standard security protocols. What you do with that information is your concern. Vader activated the ray shield, sealing the cell. Goodbye, Doctor. I do not expect we will meet again. As Vader's footsteps echoed away, the doctor stood in stunned silence. Then he smiled, a genuine, hopeful smile. "There you are, Anakin," he whispered. "Still in there. Still fighting. Good." The doctor spent the next hour examining the cell with meticulous precision. Vader had been right, the western wall's ventilation panel was standard durasteel, designed for maintenance access. Without his sonic screwdriver, opening it would be challenging but not impossible. "Nothing remains but obedience to the Emperor's will. And you came here to warn me because..." The doctor tilted his head, studying Vader. "Because you don't want them to break me. Because some part of you, some tiny fragment of Anakin Skywalker, is curious what I might say if I remain whole." Vader's hand moved to his lightsaber, then stopped. "You spoke of redemption. Of choice. Of futures I cannot see. And you want to know if I was telling the truth. I want to know if you truly believe a man such as I could be redeemed. After everything I have done. Every life I have taken. Every world I have helped destroy." Vader's voice carried an edge of something raw, something human beneath the mechanical filter. "You speak as though darkness can be undone. As though the past can be forgiven. But you are wrong. Some choices cannot be unmade. Some sins cannot be forgiven." The doctor stepped closer, until he was within arm's reach of the towering Sith Lord. "I destroyed my own people to save the universe. I ended the Time War by committing double genocide. Every day, I carry the weight of Gallifrey's burning. The screams of children. The deaths of innocents who trusted me to save them. And every day, I wake up and I choose to keep going. To help people. To fight tyranny. To prove that my people's sacrifice meant something." "That is not redemption," Vader said. "That is penance. It's both. Redemption isn't about erasing the past, Vader. It's about choosing the future. It's about looking at everything you've done and saying, I will not let that define me. I will be better. You can't undo Alderaan. You can't bring back the Jedi you hunted. You can't erase 2 decades of serving the Empire. But you can choose, right now, to stop adding to that list. To be something other than Palpatine's weapon. The Emperor would destroy me. The Emperor is an old man who maintains power through fear and manipulation. He's powerful, yes. Incredibly powerful. But he's not invincible." He removed his bow tie, unraveling it to reveal a thin wire reinforced with flexible memory metal, a Time Lord trick he'd learned centuries ago. Using the edge of the metal bench, he fashioned a crude lever, wedged it into the panel's seam, and began working it open. 17 minutes of careful manipulation later, the panel popped free. At exactly 2 hours after Vader's visit, during the guard rotation change, the doctor slipped into the ventilation shaft. The maintenance shafts were cramped, dark, and filled with the hum of the palace's environmental systems. The doctor crawled through them with practiced efficiency, following the airflow toward what he hoped was an exit. He emerged in a lower maintenance level, a vast chamber filled with humming machinery, power conduits, and, thankfully, no personnel. Using a discarded technician's uniform he found in a storage locker, he disguised himself and began working his way toward the palace's communications center. If I can access the Imperial network, he thought, I can send a message to the rebellion. Warn them about the Emperor's plans. Buy them more time. Maybe even sabotage some Imperial systems on the way out. He navigated 3 levels, avoided 2 patrol droids, and talked his way past a suspicious officer by claiming he was there to repair a critical malfunction in the secondary power coupling, a completely fabricated problem that sounded technical enough to be convincing. Finally, he reached the communications center, a massive room filled with holographic displays, data terminals, and technicians monitoring Imperial transmissions across the galaxy. The doctor slipped to an unoccupied terminal in the back, his fingers flying across the controls. He bypassed security protocols using temporal mathematics that the Empire's programmers had never anticipated, accessing the transmission systems. He encoded a message to the rebellion using the encryption protocols Krennic had provided. Evacuation window confirmed. 48. Nothing remains but obedience to the Emperor's will. And you came here to warn me because... The doctor tilted his head, studying Vader. Because you don't want them to break me. Because some part of you, some tiny fragment of Anakin Skywalker, is curious what I might say if I remain whole. Vader's hand moved to his lightsaber, then stopped. You spoke of redemption. Of choice. Of futures I cannot see. And you want to know if I was telling the truth. I want to know if you truly believe a man such as I could be redeemed. After everything I have done. Every life I have taken. Every world I have helped destroy. Vader's voice carried an edge of something raw, something human beneath the mechanical filter. You speak as though darkness can be undone. As though the past can be forgiven. But you are wrong. Some choices cannot be unmade. Some sins cannot be forgiven. The doctor stepped closer, until he was within arm's reach of the towering Sith Lord. I destroyed my own people to save the universe. I ended the Time War by committing double genocide. Every day, I carry the weight of Gallifrey's burning. The screams of children. The deaths of innocents who trusted me to save them. And every day, I wake up and I choose to keep going. To help people. To fight tyranny. To prove that my people's sacrifice meant something. That is not redemption, Vader said. That is penance. It's both. Redemption isn't about erasing the past, Vader. It's about choosing the future. It's about looking at everything you've done and saying, I will not let that define me. I will be better. You can't undo Alderaan. You can't bring back the Jedi you hunted. You can't erase 2 decades of serving the Empire. But you can choose, right now, to stop adding to that list. To be something other than Palpatine's weapon. The Emperor would destroy me. The Emperor is an old man who maintains power through fear and manipulation. He's powerful, yes. Incredibly powerful. But he's not invincible. And more importantly, he's alone. He has no friends, no allies, only servants he controls through terror. That's his weakness. He can never trust anyone because his entire philosophy is based on betrayal and domination. Vader was silent for a long moment. You suggest I betray him. I suggest you remember who you were before he twisted you into this. The doctor gestured at Vader's armor. This isn't you. This is what he made you. A tool. A weapon. A broken thing kept in constant pain so you never question, never rebel, never remember that you used to believe in hope. Hope is a lie. I learned that on Mustafar. When I lost everything. No. You learn that desperate choices have consequences. That fear leads to suffering. That the dark side promises power but delivers only emptiness. The doctor's voice softened. But hope isn't about pretending bad things won't happen. Hope is about believing that even in the darkest moment, there's still a choice. Still a chance. Still a possibility of something better. The mechanical breathing filled the silence. Finally, Vader spoke, his voice barely audible. What would you have me do? Help me escape. Help the rebellion. Not because I'm asking you to overthrow the Emperor, I know you're not ready for that. But because somewhere inside you, beneath all the armor and rage, there's still a part of Anakin Skywalker who hates what the Empire has become. Who sees the suffering it causes. Who wants to believe that things could be different. If I help you, the Emperor will know. He will sense the betrayal through the Force. Then don't help me directly. Just, don't stop me. When I make my move, when I escape, be slow to respond. Make mistakes. Let me slip through. It's not betrayal if you're simply incompetent, right? Vader's mask turned toward him. You believe you can escape the Imperial Palace. Alone. Without weapons or your ship. Surrounded by thousands of Imperial troops and the most powerful Force user in the galaxy. Hours from initial contact. Emperor knows of TARDIS capabilities but not full extent. Vader conflicted. Possible ally. Will attempt to recover TARDIS and rendezvous Yavin system. Doctor. He sent the message, then began a secondary task, implanting a subtle virus into the Imperial communications network that would cause random transmission delays across the fleet. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to sow confusion. What are you doing at that terminal? The doctor turned. An Imperial officer stood behind him, hand on his blaster. Routine maintenance, the doctor said cheerfully. Checking for. You're not authorized to be here. Guards. The doctor ran. He sprinted through the communications center, officers shouting behind him, alarms blaring. He dove through a doorway, sealed it with a quick override of the lock controls, and found himself in a corridor filled with surprised stormtroopers. Stop him, someone shouted. Blaster fire filled the hallway. The doctor ran, ducked, weaved, and somehow, through a combination of luck, speed, and the Empire's notorious inability to hit moving targets, made it to a turbolift. He jammed the controls, sending it toward the palace's upper landing platforms. If he could reach a shuttle, any shuttle, he might escape. The turbolift doors opened to reveal a landing platform where Imperial shuttles were docked. And standing between the doctor and freedom was a single figure. Darth Vader. I warned you, Vader said. The Emperor will not allow you to escape. The doctor stopped, breathing hard. I thought, you were going to be slow to respond. Incompetent. I was. This is the fastest I have moved to apprehend an escaping prisoner in 5 years. Vader's hand didn't move toward his lightsaber. You have reached the landing platform. There is a shuttle behind me, fueled and ready. Its security codes have been, accidentally left accessible. The doctor's eyes widened. You're letting me go. I am doing no such thing. I am responding to an escaped prisoner with appropriate force. Vader ignited his lightsaber, and threw it. Not at the doctor. At the control panel beside the turbolift, destroying it and sealing off the pursuit behind them. Run, Doctor, Vader said quietly. Before I change my mind. The doctor didn't hesitate. He sprinted past Vader toward the shuttle. As he reached the boarding ramp, he paused, looking back. Thank you, Anakin. That name means nothing to me, Vader replied. But his voice carried the slightest tremor. Go. Save your rebels. But know this, we are enemies still. The next time we meet, I may not be so incompetent. I'll look forward to it, the doctor said, and meant it. He boarded the shuttle. The engines engaged. And as Imperial forces finally broke through to the landing platform, the shuttle lifted off, escaping into Coruscant's crowded skylanes. Behind him, Vader stood alone, watching the shuttle disappear. Through the Force, he felt the Emperor's rage building, felt the dark summons commanding him to return. But for the first time in 20 years, Darth Vader allowed himself to wonder, what if the doctor is right? What if redemption is possible? The thought terrified him more than any enemy he'd ever faced. The stolen Imperial shuttle tore through Coruscant's atmosphere at maximum velocity. Behind it, TIE fighters launched from a dozen platforms, converging in pursuit. The doctor sat in the pilot's seat, hands dancing across unfamiliar controls, muttering a steady stream of complaints. Why does every empire design their interfaces exactly the same? Overcomplicated, unintuitive, terrible ergonomics. The Sontaran had better piloting systems than this, and they were grown in vats for warfare. Blaster fire streaked past the viewport. The shuttle's shields flared, absorbing hits. The Doctor pulled the ship into a steep dive, plunging into Coruscant's lower traffic levels where civilian speeders and cargo haulers created a maze of moving obstacles. TIE fighters followed, but their rigid formation tactics worked against them in the chaos. Two collided trying to navigate around a massive freight transport. A third clipped a building and spiraled into the depths. The Doctor's comm link. The one Leia had given him, somehow still in his stolen uniform's pocket, crackled to life. "Doctor?" Leia's voice, distant but clear. "We received your transmission. Are you escaping Coruscant?" "At the moment, yes. Though, escaping, is optimistic. Desperately fleeing, is more accurate." Another volley of blaster fire hammered the shields. "How's the evacuation?" 36 hours in. We've moved most personnel and essential equipment. But Doctor, the TARDIS is still on the Devastator. I know. I'm working on it. He pulled the shuttle into a barrel roll, narrowly avoiding a TIE fighter's strafing run. Is Han there? I need the Falcon. Static. Then Han's voice, "You want me to fly into Imperial Center's orbit to pick you up? That's suicide. It's necessary. I can't reach the Devastator without a ship that can outrun Imperial patrols. The Falcon's the fastest thing you've got. Doc, even if I wanted to help, and I'm not saying I do, it would take hours to reach Coruscant from Yavin." The dark side's fury. "You allowed him to escape," Palpatine hissed. "The most valuable prisoner we have ever captured, and you let him walk past you onto a shuttle. He destroyed the turbolift controls, Master. I could not pursue fast enough. Do not lie to me." Lightning lashed out, striking Vader's armor. Pain, searing, absolute, flooded through him. "I felt your hesitation. Your weakness. The Doctor spoke to you, filled your mind with his poison, and you listened. You, who have served me for 20 years, allowed sentiment to cloud your judgment." Vader remained silent, accepting the punishment. But inside, beneath the pain and conditioning, something had shifted. The Doctor's words echoed, "Redemption is possible. Choice still exists. You will rectify this," Palpatine continued, withdrawing the lightning. "The Doctor will flee to the rebel base on Yavin 4. You will take the Death Squadron and destroy them all. The Doctor, his ship, the rebellion. Everything. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy the Empire." "Yes, my master," Vader said, his voice hollow. As he rose and left the throne room, Vader's mind churned. The Doctor had escaped. Had reached out to the rebellion. Would attempt to recover his TARDIS. And Vader would be sent to kill him. But something was different now. For the first time in decades, Vader felt the stirrings of doubt. Not about his power. About his purpose. What if the Doctor is right? The thought was treason. But it wouldn't leave him. The Doctor's shuttle dropped out of hyperspace in the Yavin system with all the grace of a wounded Banda. The ship tumbled, engines misfiring, shields flickering. Alarms screamed. The viewport showed the massive gas giant Yavin and, beyond it, the jungle moon. And surrounding the moon, like a protective swarm, the rebel fleet, what remained of it. Transports, frigates, a handful of capital ships. Tiny compared to the Empire's might, but present. Ready. Defines it. And you still have one. Use it. The Doctor returned to the TARDIS. The doors closed. And the ship vanished, leaving Vader alone with his thoughts. On the view screen, the Millennium Falcon was already clear of the Devastator, jumping to hyperspace. "Lord Vader," Captain Gage said hesitantly. "Should we pursue?" Vader stared at the space where the TARDIS had been. "No. The fleet will proceed to Yavin 4 as ordered. Ready the assault." But inside, beneath the mask, Anakin Skywalker was screaming. The TARDIS materialized in the Yavin 4 command center, causing every rebel in the room to jump. The doctor emerged, disheveled but grinning. Evacuation status? 83% complete, Mon Mothma reported. The last transports are loading now. We have 42 minutes before the Imperial fleet arrives. Then let's make them count. The TARDIS can't evacuate everyone, her dimensional stability is too fragile. But she can help. Load your most critical personnel and equipment into her. I can make jumps to your rendezvous points, ferry people faster than transports. For the next 39 minutes, the TARDIS became a refugee ship. Groups of rebels filed through her doors, staring in wonder at the impossible interior, then vanishing as the doctor jumped them to safe locations across the galaxy. Each jump strained the TARDIS further. Smoke poured from the console. Systems failed and were hastily repaired. But she held together, refusing to fail her pilot or the people he'd promised to help. With 3 minutes to spare, the last transport lifted off. The last TARDIS load jumped away. And only the command staff remained, Mon Mothma, Leia, General Draven, and a skeleton crew to ensure the base's final shutdown. Time to go, the doctor said. They piled into the TARDIS. The doctor set coordinates for the rebel rendezvous point. His hands hovered over the controls. Through the view screen, he could see the Devastator dropping out of hyperspace, followed by 5. Go, 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 the doctor shouted. The team poured out, racing up the Falcon's boarding ramp. Han sprinted to the cockpit, engines already warming. The doctor paused at the TARDIS doors. I'll follow you. Can't leave her here. Go. You better make it, Doc. Han shouted back. The Falcon lifted off, blasting its way through the hangar bay shields with an audacity that was pure solo. Imperial forces opened fire, but the Falcon's legendary speed carried it clear. The doctor sealed the TARDIS doors and returned to the console. Right then. Let's show this Empire what a dimensionally transcendent time-space machine can really do. He set coordinates, not for the Yavin system, not yet. For one specific location first. The TARDIS materialized on the Devastator's bridge. Chaos erupted. Officers dove for cover. Stormtroopers raised weapons. And at the center of it all, Darth Vader stood, staring at the blue box that had appeared in his command center. The doctor stepped out, alone. Lord Vader. One last conversation before we become enemies again. Vader's hand moved to his lightsaber. You are a fool to return here. Probably. But I wanted you to know something. The doctor's voice was earnest. What you did, letting me escape Coruscant, that was a choice. The first real choice you've made in 20 years. And it means something. It means Anakin Skywalker isn't dead. He's just waiting. Waiting for the moment when you're ready to make another choice. I made no choice. You escaped through your own cunning. We both know that's not true. The doctor smiled sadly. The rebellion is evacuating. They'll escape today. And when they do, they'll survive to fight another day. To inspire others. To prove the Empire can be resisted. And none of that would be possible without your hesitation. Your doubt. Your choice. Vader's breathing was harsh, conflicted. Go. Before I forget that doubt and kill you where you stand. I'm going. But remember, the Force may bind the galaxy, but choice. The Millennium Falcon appeared alongside the damaged shuttle, Han's voice crackling over the comm. Doc, you look terrible. I'm locking a tractor beam. Bringing you into our hangar. Much appreciated, the doctor gasped, slumped over the controls. Minutes later, he stumbled off the shuttle into the Falcon's cargo bay, where Leia, Mon Mothma, and a medical team waited. He waved off the medics. No time. Where's the TARDIS? Still on the Devastator, General Draven reported, arriving with tactical displays. Our scouts report Vader's flagship is 3 hours from this system with a full battle group. Death Squadron, 6-star destroyers, support vessels, and enough firepower to reduce this moon to ash. Then we have 3 hours to steal my ship and evacuate. The doctor straightened, exhaustion forgotten, his mind already planning. Here's what we do, the TARDIS is in a containment cell on the Devastator. I can't reach her from outside, too much security, too many force fields. But if I can get aboard the ship again, I can use the Imperial systems against themselves, disable the containment remotely, and pilot the TARDIS out. That's the same plan that got you captured last time, Leia pointed out. Yes, but this time I have you. The rebellion. And a much better understanding of Imperial security protocols. He turned to Han. I need a team. Small, fast, expendable, no, wait, capable. I need capable people who won't panic when things inevitably go wrong. Han sighed. You want me to fly you onto a star destroyer that's about to attack this base? Exactly. See, I knew you'd understand. I didn't agree. But you will. Because you're Han Solo, scoundrel with a heart of gold, and you can't resist a chance to stick it to the Empire. The doctor grinned. Besides, the Falcon's the only ship fast enough to get us there, extract the TARDIS, and escape before the battle begins. You'll be captured or dead long before then. The doctor's mind raced through possibilities, discarding options as quickly as he considered them. Then his eyes fell on the shuttle's navicomputer, and a completely insane idea formed. What if I come to you? What? This shuttle has hyperspace capability. If I can evade pursuit long enough to calculate a jump, I can reach the Yavin system. Meet you there. Then we steal the TARDIS together. You're not a pilot. Han protested. I'm a 900-year-old Time Lord who's flown everything from primitive rockets to dimensional transcendence engines. How hard can one Imperial shuttle be? The doctor began inputting coordinates, his Time Lord mathematics compensating for his complete lack of proper hyperspace navigation training. Besides, if I stay here, the Emperor will capture me, dissect my knowledge, and probably use it to build interdimensional weapons. So really, this is the responsible choice. Mon Mothma's voice joined the channel. Doctor, if you can reach Yavin, we'll provide support. But you need to survive the next 5 minutes first. Working on it. The shuttle broke atmosphere, Imperial TIE fighters still in pursuit. But here, in the vacuum of space, the doctor had an advantage. The shuttle's hyperdrive was charging, and the TIE fighters, short-range craft designed for atmospheric combat, were reaching the limit of their operational range. The navicomputer beeped. Hyperspace calculations complete. The coordinates were rough, possibly catastrophically inaccurate, but they'd get him close to Yavin. Here we go, the doctor said, pulling the hyperspace lever. The stars stretched. Reality bent. And the shuttle vanished into the blue-white tunnel of hyperspace, leaving the pursuing TIE fighters behind. In the Imperial Palace throne room, Emperor Palpatine's rage was a physical force. Lightning arced between his fingers. Nearby equipment sparked and died. And before him, Darth Vader knelt, head bowed, enduring. Straight to the containment cell, and we're doing it now. They reached level 23, section 7, the same corridor where the doctor had been held before. 2 stormtroopers guarded the entrance. Velrin's team dropped them with stun blasts before they could raise the alarm. The doctor sonicked the door controls. He'd stolen his sonic screwdriver back from the evidence locker during the shuttle's approach, and the blast doors opened. Inside, in the same containment cell as before, sat the TARDIS. She looked wounded still, diminished, but her windows flared brightly when the doctor entered. "Hello, old girl," he breathed. "Miss me? Again?" He ran to the console, accessing the Imperial containment systems from inside. The force dampening fields deactivated. The dimensional stabilizers disengaged. And the TARDIS, for the first time in weeks, was free. "Doctor!" Velrin shouted from the corridor. "We've got company." Blaster fire erupted outside. Imperial reinforcements were converging. Han and Chewbacca were holding the corridor, but it was only a matter of time before they were overwhelmed. The Doctor worked frantically at the TARDIS controls, coaxing the damaged systems to life. Come on. One dematerialization. Just get us to the Falcon's hangar. That's all I'm asking." The TARDIS engines groaned. Sparked. And engaged. "Everyone inside," the Doctor shouted. "Now." Velrin's team retreated into the TARDIS, eyes widening as they experienced the dimensional transcendence. Han and Chewbacca dove through the doors last, blaster fire following them. The Doctor pulled the dematerialization lever. The TARDIS vanished. And reappeared in the Devastator's hangar bay, directly beside the Millennium Falcon. Chewbacca roared something that sounded affirmative. "Chewie's in," Han translated. "Which means I'm outvoted. Again." He looked at Leia. "You're okay with this insanity?" Leia studied the Doctor, this strange, brilliant, infuriating being who'd crashed into their war and somehow given them hope. If the Doctor says he can recover his ship, I believe him. And if the TARDIS can help us evacuate faster, save more lives, it's worth the risk. Mon Mothma nodded. "You have the Alliance's support, Doctor. But understand, this is our final stand on Yavin 4. If Vader's fleet arrives before we've evacuated, many will die. The responsibility for those lives rests with all of us." "I know," the Doctor said quietly. "And I won't fail them. I won't fail you." 2 hours later, the Millennium Falcon approached the Devastator using a captured Imperial transponder that identified it as a cargo shuttle. In the Falcon's hold, the Doctor stood with Han, Chewbacca, and a strike team of 6 rebel commandos led by a hard-eyed woman named Sergeant Kes Velrin. "Our window is 17 minutes, Velrin said, checking her chronometer. "In and out before their sensors realize we're not a cargo transport." "Doctor, you're sure you can access the containment systems?" "Reasonably sure. 73% certain. Maybe 68%. The Doctor saw their expressions. "Look, confidence is great, but realism is better. Imperial security is sophisticated. I'll need time to bypass it. Your job is to buy me that time." "By shooting our way through a Star Destroyer," Velrin said flatly. "Ideally with minimal shooting. I'm a pacifist." "Well, a pacifist who's very good at causing explosions and chaos, but still, minimal casualties would be lovely." The Falcon shuddered as it passed through the Devastator's shields. Han's hands were steady on the controls, but his jaw was tight with tension. Approaching Landing Bay 7. Setting down in 30 seconds. They touched down among actual Imperial cargo shuttles. Stormtroopers patrolled the bay, but they paid no attention to one more shuttle in a busy hangar. The team disembarked, dressed in stolen Imperial uniforms. The Doctor wore a technician's outfit, carrying a toolkit and datapad that made him look exactly like one of hundreds of maintenance personnel on the ship. "Remember the plan," he whispered as they moved through the corridors. "Velrin's team creates a distraction near the detention levels. Han and Chewie secure our exit route. I access the containment cell, free the TARDIS, and we all meet back at the Falcon before anyone realizes what's happened." "Simple," Han muttered. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, as it turned out, went wrong almost immediately. They'd made it 3 corridors before a patrol of stormtroopers stopped them for a random security check. Velrin's forged credentials worked, but the lead trooper was suspicious. "You're assigned to maintenance level 7, the trooper said, examining the data pad. "This is level 12. Rerouted for emergency repairs," the doctor said smoothly. "Power fluctuations in the containment systems." Very technical. Very urgent. Very boring if I explain the details, which I absolutely can do if you'd like, starting with the quantum harmonics of. Move along, the trooper interrupted, waving them through. They'd made it 5 more corridors when the alarms began blaring. What now? Han hissed. The doctor pulled out a commandeered comlink and listened to Imperial chatter. His face went pale. The Emperor just transmitted new orders to Vader. Death Squadron is accelerating their approach. They're not waiting 3 hours. They're attacking Yavin 4 in 90 minutes. The evacuation isn't complete. Leia's voice crackled over their secure channel. We need more time. Then I need to work faster. The doctor broke into a run, the team following. Change of plans, no distraction, no subtlety. We're going. More Star Destroyers. Death Squadron. Vader's fleet. Doctor, Leia said quietly. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet, he replied. Thank me when we've won. He pulled the lever. The TARDIS dematerialized. And 30 seconds later, the first turbolaser bombardment struck the abandoned base, turning ancient temples into vapor and fire. But the rebellion was gone. Saved by a Time Lord in a blue box who'd chosen to intervene. Conclusion. 3 months later, the rebellion was scattered but alive, operating from hidden cells across the galaxy. The Doctor worked alongside them, not as a warrior, but as a strategist, using his centuries of knowledge to outthink Imperial forces. The TARDIS, slowly healing, made surgical strikes possible, rescue missions, supply runs, evacuations that defied Imperial blockades. Mon Mothma stood with the Doctor in a safe house on Ord Mantell, reviewing intelligence reports. The Empire is hunting you specifically now. Vader has made you a priority target. Good, the Doctor said. Let them hunt. Every resource they waste on me is a resource not used against you. He smiled. Besides, I've faced worse. Have you? Leia asked, joining them. Because the Empire controls the galaxy. For now. But empires fall, Leia. Always. It's the one constant in the universe. And this one will fall because people like you refuse to give up. Refuse to stop believing that freedom matters. He looked at the assembled rebels, humans, aliens, droids, all united by hope. You're going to win this war. Maybe not today. Maybe not for years. But you'll win. Because you fight for something real. And tyranny, no matter how powerful, can't withstand that forever. Across the galaxy, on the Devastator, Darth Vader stood alone in his meditation chamber. The Doctor's words haunted him, choice still exists. For the first time in 20 years, Vader allowed himself to wonder, what if it does? The rebellion continued. The Empire remained. But seeds had been planted, of hope, of doubt, of possibility. And in a blue box traveling between stars, a Time Lord smiled, knowing that sometimes the smallest choices created the greatest changes. The war was far from over. But the future had shifted. And in a galaxy bound by the Force, one being from beyond had proven that destiny was never fixed. Choice mattered. Hope endured. And the Doctor would remain, fighting alongside those who refused to surrender to darkness. May the Force be with you. More stories await.